or self-seeking or easily angered. Lord, I ask your rich blessings on this council meeting and every person who is a part of it. I ask for your grace and your power to help the council and the citizens of our city to iron out any differences with reasoned debate, void of rancor. You can do that, Holy Spirit. May our city and our council meetings be known for speaking the truth in love that promotes trust and preserves God's good plan for all of us. And may I add, Lord, a special prayer for the transition of everybody who's moving this week. Watch over them and keep them safe, I pray, and give them success in the move. And Lord, we ask all these things in Christ's mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chaplain Miller.
Thank you.
Now I'll invite forward Oscar Lozado Vicencio from the Holcomb Elementary School to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please take all caps and repeat after me. Raise your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Oscar. Good evening again to our council meeting. Our first presentation will be by our library director, Ed Ridjovic.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the Council and our City Manager. Thank you very much for my annual appearance here to plug the summer reading program at our all four city libraries. This year our summer reading program is titled Reading by Design. Summer reading program kicks off next Monday, a week from today, May 22nd. And will run for 2 months at all four city libraries until July 22nd. As you probably recall, summer reading program promotes reading, early literacy, and recreational activities for children and teens. But believe it or not, adults can participate as well, so don't feel that you're left out and that you cannot participate as well. Last year we had 1,458 participants. Our goal this year is to register 1,600. As you probably recall, all four city library locations include Feldheim, Dorothy Ingram, Howard Row, and Paul Villaseñor. Library service days and hours are available at the library website at www.sbpl.org. How children and teens win. Keeping track of minutes read, activities completed, library events that are attended. For each prize earned, they will also receive a raffle ticket for the grand prize drawing at the end of the reading program. And as stated, there are even rewards for adults too, so don't feel that you're not left out. Adults receive a raffle ticket each day they check out books. Raffle tickets are in each weekly drawing at each branch and are also entered in the drawing for the grand prize at the end of the program. Adults will also receive extra raffle ticket for attending library events. End of summer reading celebration. Annually, we have a big party to celebrate the end of the program on Saturday, July 29th, followed by grand prize drawings. Activities and programs at all libraries. Some of the events included steel drum workshop, animal show, magician shows, puppet shows, craft programs, as well as our weekly story times. And these programs are paid for, sponsored by the Friends of the Library that kick in funding to do those programs beyond what we have available in our regular city budget as we leverage our funds. For information, we have a special brochure, which is available at all four city libraries. Also, we have information at the library website and the library's Facebook and Twitter pages that also are linked from the library's homepage. So that's summer reading program for 2017. In a quick look, thank you very much for the opportunity to appear before you, and I welcome everyone, including our viewers online and at home, to participate. So thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions? Ed, I have a question for you. If
Yes,
someone wants to join the summer reading challenge, did they sign up?
Yes, well, anytime they come in any of the 4 libraries, between those dates, they can sign up, and then once they're in the program, then they tally marks as they read more books and participate.
And so they're keeping track of the number of minutes?
Yes, there's various tallies that our staff uses, so once people come in anytime between those dates, they sign up, and then they begin tallying totals.
And so is the reading at the library?
Not necessarily. It could be, or it could be at home or elsewhere. We've tried to be more flexible in allowing for different terms of usage compared to how it used to. We used to just calculate books checked out, but we try to be more flexible, considering some people may not be able to get a card, et cetera. We tried to allow more flexibility.
It doesn't have to be a book that's checked out from the library?
It may not be. It could just be something in the
Could be
library.
an agenda?
Well, as long as everyone is interested in it, I suppose it could be.
Yes.
There you go, Mayor. He wants to get credit for based on the number of pages.
That would be based on the number of pages?
Well, that's what
Well-
you're hoping for.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Ed.
Thank you, everyone.
How about just amendments to item 18 and 19 that was put on our desk at 5 o'clock today, 4 o'clock?
All right, our next presentation will be by Councilmember Richard for Citizen of the Month.
Thank you, Mayor. It is with great pleasure and honor to award Assemblywoman Cheryl Brown as Citizen of the Month for the month of May. Please come on up. Thank you. A little bit about Cheryl. You know, Cheryl's been a resident of the 6th Ward for
Since 1958.
I won't even count those years, but since 1958. And, you know, she reminded me today that she has never received this award. And it's just that one thing that I just really don't understand, because I know that she's a hardworking citizen in the community and in the 6th Ward. Thank you for all the work that you do. So Cheryl Brown is a former Assemblywoman, publisher, small business owner, and current California State Commissioner on Aging, who has developed the majority of her life on public service. Cheryl Brown has been recognized for countless local, state, and national organizations for her work on behalf of the community in various capacities as an elected official and community volunteer. From the years of 2012 and 2016, Cheryl Brown served in the California State Assembly, representing California's 47th District. The 47th Assembly District is located in the heart of San Bernardino County. It includes Colton, Fontana, Grand Terrace, Rialto, San Bernardino, and the unincorporated communities of Bloomington and Muscoy. In and out of elected office, Cheryl Brown has always been a champion of family-owned small businesses. The pride of community benefits of owning a small business was instilled in her by her father, Marvin, a veteran of World War II, who started the tax preparation business in Southern California over 60 years ago. Today, the business is run by her older brother. Following her father's lead, the Black Voice is now owned by the Brown's daughter, Dr. Paulette Brown Hines. Cheryl Brown and her husband, Hardy Sr., have been married for 52 years and raised 4 children in San Bernardino. Lynn, Paulette, Hardy Jr., and Regina have blessed their parents with 9 grandchildren. So let's give her a warm hand clap.
Thank you so much, Bassim. I really do appreciate this. And I'm touched because we think that San Bernardino, I say we, my husband, my family, we think that San Bernardino is a special place. And when my parents brought me here in 1958, I knew I wasn't going to go anyplace else, that I would be right here. And as I stayed here, went to high school here, San Bernardino High School, woohoo, and graduated from San Bernardino Valley College and then Cal State. My husband and I decided that we were going to stay right here in the middle of this community and try to do whatever we could to make it the best place for our families and for other families who live here. And I think San Bernardino, for me, I love San Bernardino. As soon as I was elected, the first thing I did was to move downtown San Bernardino next door in the Nahr Towers. And I thought it was important because San Bernardino is the center of San Bernardino County. And what we have to do is just to continue the work that you've already started, that has been, that the people that you're standing on their shoulders, just to continue that work, and let's get better and better and better. Let's not forget those that are homeless. Let's not forget those that are aged. We have got to look out for the people in our community that are here. And people are here because they love it too, or because they just don't have any other place to go. So I really appreciate this award, this recognition, and yes, it is the first time, and I hope that I'll continue to give back to the community that I grew up in and that has given me so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Richard, and thank you, Cheryl, for the many contributions that you've made to our community. You certainly have left your footprint on many of our lives, so thank you. We will now invite our city attorney to give us a report on closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. In the matter of Paul Triplett versus the City of San Bernardino, Council gave settlement directed by a vote of 5-0. Councilperson Nickel absent, and Councilmember Richard abstained. In the matter of Havens versus the City of San Bernardino, Council gave settlement directed by a vote of 6-0 with Henry Nichols absent. In the matter of Pritchett versus the City of San Bernardino, Council gave settlement directed by a vote of 6-1 with Councilman Valdivia voting no. And in the matter of conference with the labor negotiation under item B regarding middle management, Council received negotiations update. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll invite the Chamber to come forward, give us an update. Leslie Stevens.
Good afternoon. I'm Leslie Stevens from the Residence Inn in San Bernardino, and I'm here to deliver the upcoming activities that the San Bernardino Area Chamber of Commerce has. Come out to a ball game at the San Manuel Stadium and show your support for San Bernardino's Inland Empire's 66ers baseball team. For games and dates, call 888-9922. This Wednesday on May 17th at 11:30 is our monthly Chamber Social Networking Lunch. I encourage you all to come out and join us. We're going to have that at Buffalo Wild Wings at 690 East Hospitality Lane, and RSVP to the Chamber at 885-7515. May 19 through 21, the California Theater presents Cinderella. For tickets and showtimes, call 885-5152. On Thursday, May 25th, the Chamber Business After Hours will be hosted by Traditional Cremation Center and Cemetery from 5 to 7, located at 562 South I Street. To RSVP, call the Chamber at 885-7515. Saturday, May 27th, the DAV Chapter 12 Veterans Memorial Wall Dedication Ceremony at 11 a.m., located at 2501 Pacific Street in Highland. The San Bernardino Area Chamber's 41st Annual Law Enforcement Recognition Dinner will be held on Thursday, June 8th at 5:30 at the Scottish Rite Hall. Join us as we honor the outstanding professionalisms and accomplishments for 2016 from California Highway Patrol, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, San Bernardino Police Department, Cal State University Police Department, San Bernardino Colleges District Police Department, San Bernardino City Unified School District Police Department, and the Special Canine Unit. Sponsorship opportunities are available. For reservations, call the Chamber at 885-7515. The Chamber is also sponsoring a trip to China, November 3rd through 11th. Anyone who's interested may visit the Chamber website or call Loopy. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the Chamber keeping us up to date. We have two speakers for agendized items. Deanna Adams. Brent Neben.
Honorable Mayor.
He's speaking on item 15. Go ahead.
That's correct. My name is Brent with Y-Green Energy. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I'm just here to introduce myself as a representative from Y-Green Energy Fund. We were approved just a few short weeks ago here, and just in a few short weeks, we've had an uptick in activity here in your city. Already 32 applications and an amount of potentially $1.2 million in funding in 9 completed projects. So when that item comes up, I'm just here to address the council if questions come up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you have a business card?
You give it to the city clerk. Thank you. We'll now go to consent calendar. Are there any items to be pulled? Councilmember Mulvihill?
I have none, Your Honor.
Councilmember Richard?
I have none, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Nickel?
I have none.
Councilmember Charette?
None.
Councilmember Valdivia?
None tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Barrios?
None at all, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Marquez?
None, Your Honor.
Move approval. Second.
Do we have a motion and a second for approval of?
On the consent calendar, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Valdivia, second by Mr. Mulvihill, and it passed unanimously.
Thank you. We received a public speaker card for item number 8 and 9. 8 and 9 was just a consent calendar item. Item 9 will be a public hearing, so at that time you'll have the opportunity to address the council. But you could speak on 8 if you wanted to in public comments at the end. We've already opened up the time for public comments on agendized items, and so the only other item would be item number 9.
She actually did have her request in at 11 a.m. this morning.
Okay. If you'd like to speak on item 8, thank you.
You could either reconsider it before she speaks or wait till she speaks and determine whether you want to.
Mr. Mayor, what's your recommendation, Mr. Scrutter?
I don't think there's any damage in letting her speak, and then if you decide to change your vote, we can do a motion to reconsider.
Thank you. Ms. Rowe?
Okay, so number 8 is regarding Ed Flores and continuing his consultant services. So for a total of $180,000, do you know how many homeless could get off the street? I'd like to know what he's done for the $180,000. And I have your agenda or the draft minutes from September 19th, 2016, and he was supposed to come back within 90 days with some sort of plan. I haven't seen a plan. I haven't seen him come back in 90 days, and yet we're funneling out money after money after money after money after money. $180,000 seriously? For one person, not even for a year's worth of work? It was I think it was like 130, and then it was 50, and now it was 30, but regardless, it's $180,000 total that we're funneling out for consulting services. And quite honestly, I don't think you guys understand how the city block grant funds work. Okay, and I don't think anybody's paying attention. And today at the public hearing, I'm going to speak a little bit more, but I just wanted to come and tell you that for $180,000, I'd like to know what's been done. I'd like to see what's been done, and I think that all of you up there, if you care and you love the city and you actually want to see us get out of the hole that we're in, I think you guys should concern yourself with $180,000 and where did it go. And have you guys seen any improvement on the streets? Have you seen any less homeless? Because I haven't. It's real bad. It's bad everywhere. You know, 22 years I've been at my office. My dad's been there for 40. And they removed the mailboxes in the Sealy alleyway recently because homeless people have been defecating and putting it in there. There is a real problem. I mean, businesses cannot survive because homeless people are peeing and pooping in front of their buildings. For $180,000, I'd rather you build a public restroom in various neighborhoods of the city. I mean, I think that would be a better plan than not really having one. And like I said, 90 days is come and gone. There's been no plan. There's been no improvement, and I'd like to know what's $180,000 being spent on? What are you getting? Because the total of all the funds for all the administrative costs for CDBG is $601,000. Where's the money? What are they doing for $601,000 in a year? Please, someone help me to understand, because I don't. Thanks.
Councilman Valdivia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Scott, I think Mr. Flores is...
Before you ask questions, you need to do a motion to reconsider.
Oh, yeah. Can we just pull the item on number 8?
Yes.
For reconsider. I'll make a motion to reconsider item number 8. Second?
I'll second.
A motion, a second, to reconsider item number 8. Please cast your vote.
I'd like to take a voice vote. Ms. Marquez?
Yes.
Mr. Barrios?
Yes.
Mr. Valdivia?
Yes.
Mr. Charette?
No.
Mr. Nichol?
Yes.
Ms. Richard?
Yes.
And Mr. Mulvihill? The item to reconsider that item passed 5-2.
Thank you, Councilman Valdivia.
Thank you, sir. In light of kind of the broadcast concerns that Ms. Rowe has, Mr. Scott, we have Mr. Flores available. I'd like to hear from him, kind of scope of services. I believe in Ed Flores and what he's done for our community here. And I think in fair balance to him and his office and really the trajectory of the city going forward, I'd like to hear just a brief summary if we could.
Yeah, I don't object to that.
I mean, I don't want him to come to the microphone feeling like he's defending himself, because he's not.
No, and that's not.
I think what you're just...
Well, perhaps you can provide a narrative to the public and reassure us of the money well spent in his services and provide for us a narrative publicly so that we can allay some fears.
Why don't I start it, and if he feels like there's something that he wants to add, then he's certainly welcome to come up and do that. Mr. Flores is a consultant who is very experienced working with HUD in particular, because he's been a regional official with HUD and has great knowledge and great respect among the people who we do business with, the Housing and Urban Development Department. He's also a former official of the state of California, great governmental experience. We retained him initially before I came to work here. He was retained when Brandon Mims was still the manager of the housing function and had done some work for the city at that time. I was very impressed by the work I saw when I came to work, and subsequently Mr. Mims left, and I found it very desirable to bring Mr. Flores in to fill that seat while we were figuring out what to do with it. We have subsequently figured out what to do, and we're out recruiting right now for the permanent position. But during the time Mr. Flores has been here, while I've been here, he's actually filling that role. So we're not paying a deputy director of housing, which was the old title. We're not paying that person because the position is vacant. We're not paying retirement. We're not paying medical. We're not paying any of the benefit costs. So the costs that we have been paying toward Mr. Flores are the same dollars that we would have been paying for a manager for that function. In terms of what he's done, he has completely reevaluated all of our 4 HUD programs. He did a 2-meeting session with the City Council Committee, Mr. Valdivia and Ms. Richard, where he went exhaustively through all of the information that we have available to go through and update and make us feel comfortable that the money that we're spending is being allocated for the right purposes. Admittedly, the city has not been spending its HUD money efficiently in the recent past. I think we feel very comfortable now that with Mr. Flores and Diane Cotto, who I want to give credit to, and Annie Clark, whose name I'm going to say right this time, that we have a now smaller staff that is accomplishing a lot more. And 2 other employees who I don't want to leave out. We have eliminated some contracts. So we had costs for some contracts that we no longer have because they found other ways to get that work done and ridded us of those contracts so that we don't have those costs anymore. They also then came and did a whole workshop with the City Council that was on TV for the world to see. And I think my read from the City Council that night was very positive, that people felt comfortable that we're headed in the right direction. So basically in the HUD area, Mr. Flores has led us through all of that, and I think done it very well and gained the respect of the people at HUD. And I think we're in much, much better shape than we were a year ago when he started filling in that role.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the brief review of Mr. Flores. So I'd like to move for approval on this item.
Second. Thank you. Motion second. Any other questions? Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Scott, are we underway in trying to get a housing director permanently, which will cost us a lot more than what we're paying Mr. Flores?
Yes, and Mr. Flores' services will be phased out as we're successful in filling that position.
You're talking about the next 90 days, perhaps?
Yes, and we're hopeful that there'll be some overlap so that he can help with that transition.
Okay, thank you.
If I could add something else.
Marquez, or Mulvihill?
Yeah, we look alike. I also want to say, the document that we've got here tonight, we've never had a document that's clearly laid out as this. I mean, this is an action plan. So this document itself is well worth the money that we're paying to organize. My impression is that under the previous housing person, we had columns of blank, of essentially anonymous numbers, and when asked about what a number meant, we got a very vague answer. Very upsetting, but this is a very clearly laid out document, so points us in the right direction for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. No other comments or questions? Please cast your votes.
On the reconsideration of item 8, the motion to approve is made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Mr. Mulvihill, and it passed 7-0.
Thank you. We have 3 public hearings, but I believe they are noticed for beginning at 5:30. Is that correct? No?
We've started noticing all public hearings at 4 p.m. so that we can take them.
Whenever they come up. Okay, very good. So the first public hearing is item number 9. This public hearing is now open. It's a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino to adopt the fiscal year 2017-18 U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Annual Action Plan. Mr. Scott? Excuse me. We have 2 public speakers for this item.
Yeah, we could either do a staff report first, or we could listen to the public first, whatever your choice.
Let's take the public's comments first. Would you please stand if you want to be heard on this and be sworn in? I have 2 public speakers. Excuse me, I have 3. Please raise your right hand.
Adam, raise your right hand. You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter before this body, so you say you do.
I do, so help me God.
Thank you. Carmel Rowe.
Okay, I'm back. So first of all, I'd like to correct you, Mr. Mulvihill. We've had an annual action plan that is pretty much similar to this. This is like a template. I've read through all of them for the last 3 years, and this one is no better. So I'd have to correct you. Maybe you didn't quite read through them. But I did read through the action plan very thoroughly, and I had a few questions. The few questions is that on some places it's the same allocated amount of money. It says you're going to renovate 5 homes, and then some it says you're going to renovate 26 homes. And that is for the improvement of the infrastructure to help low to moderate income, families redo the outside or the inside of their property. I found that, a little puzzling. I'd also like to bring your guys' attention to the fact that we have leftover money from previous years, and that the total amount of money that we'll be spending here I believe, is almost $7 million. $7 million goes a long way if spent properly. And right in here, in this plan on page 33, it says the City of San Bernardino does not have any neighborhood revitalization strategy area within the city. How are we going to spend $7 million without a revitalization strategy within the city? That's something I'd like to know. I also like to tell you guys, remember the last time I was here and I told you guys to read about HUD and all their rules and their guidelines? Well, here's the book, got directly from HUD, regarding CDBG, and it tells you all the rules and all of everything. And I've studied this thoroughly, and you guys are not doing justice to our block grant funds. Not at all. They are not being used. Yeah, and I heard him say, this year they're going to be used. But you know what? You guys put this on the piece of paper, and nobody actually goes in and does what they're supposed to do. There's no checks and balances. Like, why are we replacing a roof on the library that was probably an insurance claim with city block grant money? Why are we paying $708,000 a year for the cinema repayment and for the Home Depot repayment when there's never been a Home Depot? You guys told HUD that you guys were going to create 457 jobs with that money. And this is $7 million they got away with on a Section 108 loan for Home Depot that's never been built and isn't going to be there, and it's full of weeds and blight right now. This money right here, if it had been spent properly for 40 years, we wouldn't have the problem that we have. We wouldn't have dilapidated parks. I have an email in here from Mark Persico to Mark Scott, and he's saying that we should adopt an unreinforced masonry ordinance, and it's going to cost $125,000. Well, that's targeting all the whole Hispanic community, and you guys didn't even hire an interpreter to speak to them. We also then have what could be used is for some parks, and we got Delman Heights Park could be fixed for $131,000. I think we'd rather have the parks fixed than have empty, abandoned buildings. Nobody wants that unreinforced masonry. We have signs, and you guys are targeting, just going to tell you, you guys are targeting Hispanics. You guys are targeting the lowest income of the lowest income. And I'd also like to point out one last thing in this plan here. If you look in the very back where they give the maps, this one isn't color, but I'll let you know that where they say the poorest areas of the city is in the 5th Ward. That's not true at all, okay? That is such, it says high concentration of, actually, this is what it says. It says that we have extremely low income and the majority of the area is in the 5th Ward. It should actually be down here in the 1st and 2nd Ward, and you guys have them at moderate income. So how good of a job is this document that we just heard that we paid $180,000 for? I don't think it's very good. I don't think it's a complete plan. And I want to know, I'm going to drive around and I'm going to check on all these projects, and I want to see that they get done. And I want to see that $7 million got reinvested back into this community, because as of today, it has not been reinvested back into this community in 40 years. You guys have already got slapped on the hand, and when HUD comes back down in here the next time, I hope nobody goes to jail, because people are not truthful, things are not as they appear, and nobody, I have to stick up for Brandon. When Brandon was there, we had an open door policy, we were able to see, we were able to come in, we were able to involve the community, and now we've been told that we don't even have a community participation plan, yet in this document, you guys tell the HUD that you care about the community and that you want the community to participate. No, you don't. Where's the Spanish-speaking interpreter? Where is it? Where is the letters in the mail? Where is, hey, here's information. Where's the open door policy? You guys are failing. Everybody is failing. This money is used to better the community, not kick it in the teeth and not hold it down. And you guys have been mismanaging funds. And the only reason that people care to keep it around is because it's a $601,000 a year paycheck to some people. Thank you.
Deanna Adams.
I'm going to take it to a different note. I came here to San Bernardino when I was 37 years old. I just turned 70 a couple of weeks ago. I could never understand why this city doesn't change. The neighborhoods are deplorable, they're blighted. The city comes up with all kinds of schemes to rehabilitate it, but it doesn't happen. So I just ask. I go to neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood, and I get older and older and older. Like I said, I'm 70, and nothing has changed. I've changed, and the city has changed, but I see no improvement. It's blighted. The city lives off the blight. The city lives off all the homeless. The city lives off all the poverty because they make money. I did not know that for all those years because I always felt so sorry for San Bernardino. Why does it ever improve? It just doesn't improve. Walking around, talking around, it doesn't improve until I received a one-on-one course from Carmel and Sandra Wabera, but mostly from Carmel, and read all the information myself because I love to read. I read like 3-4 hours a day. And now I can figure it out. You have misused our money. You are the ones that caused these blighted neighborhoods. You're the ones that caused all this homelessness. You're the one that caused all this adversity, no change. And for all those years that I've lived here in this city, looking at all the blight from Ward 1, 2, 3, 4, and on. I see it deteriorating. I keep saying, my gosh, whose fault is it? What happened? But I know whose fault it is. It's your fault. It's the city's fault. It's the leader's fault. How you use our money. That's what's wrong with it. So I had a course, and I studied it, and Carmela Rowe is correct. She read it, and she speaks the truth. You have totally mismanaged the funds. And when it comes to the URM, that's going to be, at my public comment, I'm going to have a big surprise for you with a lot of names, addresses, and why we are having this URM. That's for the end of the City Hall meeting for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes public speaking for item number 9, City Manager.
Yeah, I'd like Mr. Flores to come up at this point, and I don't know if he wants to introduce the plan that's in front of the council and explain why it's here and what this represents, and we can address any additional questions. This is not far afield from what we covered in our workshop recently, but this is the one-year filing that needs to be done that is part of that 5-year comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, we come before you today with the 2017-2018 Annual Action Plan. Keep in mind that this plan doesn't have all the correct allocations from HUD because they haven't provided any information for this coming year yet. So the numbers with respect to the allocations that we receive may change, but not how we've identified how we want to spend them. We've identified funds we want to spend through CDBG as well as ESG and resources from prior years. Keep in mind that we have no monies coming in on the home program, so we can't utilize that fund until 2018. We've also identified all the projects that we have budgeted that encompass administration, Section 108 repayments, tenant landlord mediation services, demolition programs, parks and rec programs, owner residential programs, commercial rehabilitation programs, and we have 1.5 of funds that we haven't identified how we want to spend that. We want to cover that with you, the city manager, to identify specifically how we want to spend those funds as well. We're also looking at the infill housing. We came before you with respect to the infill housing program where we want to identify infill housing lots and build stick-built homes as well as modular housing. So we're moving forward with that. We're also moving forward with the other funds that we've identified in public improvements, capital improvement projects, also the ESG program. We're moving forward with that, the emergency shelter grants. We've identified $440,000 as to how we want to spend those funds. So in a nutshell, it's just identifying projected improvements and projected funds to be expended within the upcoming year. Any questions?
A couple things, if I could add. So when Mr. Flores talks about the 1.5 that is still available in CDBG funds, you see that on packet page 1, I lost my page. On packet page 129, you see where it says CDBG program, unprogram, 1.5 million. We will talk about that in part, at least, in the capital improvement budget. So there is some flexibility for the city council yet as it relates to those funds. And then on the ESG funds, they're still showing, we still show $221,000 that's unprogrammed for those homeless funds. Now, some part of that I want to talk about in the context of the homeless services. We talked about contracting with Step Up. That's an option, and we will talk about that before we wrap up this year's budget review. So those are the two pieces of this that show unprogrammed That's our expectation of what we're going to do with those funds.
Any questions? Councilman Nichol?
Yeah, and looking at these maps, I don't know what's going on.
I don't think we made those maps. Do you know what the source of those maps?
No, I don't, offhand.
I was trying to read the fine print to see where it came from.
These maps, I know at least one map is not accurate.
Yeah, my guess is they were lifted off of somebody else's plan, but we can try to address those.
Yeah, and I can't approve this. It looks like it came from the 2010 U.S. Census. These are not correct figures.
Yeah, we'll take.
Looking at page 199, and I'm looking at some of the other maps too, and this, yeah, I think we need to review some of this material and ensure it's accurate, because I'm looking at this is not accurate at all. Okay.
We'll take a look at that. Other questions?
Councilmember Marquez?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Flores, I was not in attendance at our council meeting on March 20th, so I just want to be clear, because I did get a lot of calls regarding the CDBG funding. They were redirected to public service funds to fair housing and capital improvement activities for 5 years, right?
That's correct.
So none of these monies are going to nonprofits?
That's correct.
Under the public safety, public services category, under ESG,
Yes.
Right.
of them are going to nonprofits.
Right. But under this pool of
CDBG is
not. Okay, just wanted to make clear. Thank you.
Any other questions? We have a motion?
Second.
A second? We have a motion to move forward?
Yeah.
Approval? A second?
I can't approve this.
No further questions? Please cast your votes.
I'll move to continue it, but I can't approve this. This is not accurate.
Well, are you saying because of the map being wrong?
The information is not accurate.
Well, you can give us direction to fix the map, and we can do that.
Well, I'm not going to approve it until I see you're corrected.
All right, do we have a, we're okay with our filing date?
Not really. Even though we have a waiver from HUD, we need to meet a threshold, or else we lose our funding. So I may suggest that if the contents are correct, with the exception of the maps, we'll address the maps.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion on item 9 was made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Mr. Mulvihill, and the item passes 6-1 with Mr. Nichol voting no.
All right, do we need a separate call to open the public hearing for 10, close 9? All right, so public hearing for item number 9 is closed. Public hearing for item number 10 is now open. We have one speaker slip. Ricardo. City Clerk, if you'll swear in the...
Ricardo, please raise your right hand. Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the item before the board?
Yes. Yeah, the reason I'm here is because I guess I received a letter saying that there was going to be a lien against the property.
Is your speaker on?
Hello?
Thank you, yes. Could you speak into it?
Yes, the reason I'm here is because I received a letter that's regarding a lien on the property for the trash. And I'm still wondering, like, how do you guys manage to do that? Because I can't afford to pay something that I do it myself. I do cleanups, I clean up houses and stuff like that, so I don't need a service for the trash. And top it off, I'm already 90% being homeless, so adding another $54 on my budget is not gonna help me at all, you know. And second of all, you guys are doing it, monopolize the Vortec because there's no competition, so they could just raise the prices anytime they want to, because you guys give exclusivity to them. So I don't understand how to, under federal law, you guys are breaking the law already.
Didn't we already hold a public hearing where they?
Yeah, it's a public hearing on the, and I don't know if to put it on the agenda, but go ahead.
Mayor and Council, Stephen Graham, Deputy City Attorney. If the speaker's concluded, I can give the staff presentation on this item. Okay. What we have here is we have delinquent refuse accounts for the last 2 months. There are a lot of them. These are in addition to the delinquent accounts that you saw a few months ago. You can see how they sort of grow. In terms of the speaker's specific issue, we do have Vortec outside. They do accept payment plans, and they can work with him. And in fact, the other people who have shown up today have been able to resolve their account issues. I can tell you that under our municipal code, every residential property in the city is required to have trash service because it's a public health and safety issue. They're required to have the minimum level of service that is required. If there is some other specific issue with the speaker's property, my recommendation would be that the council simply remove that one property from the list and approve the resolution as it is so that we can get it resolved.
Councilman Valdivia.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Scott, is it possible to highlight his property address and remove it from the list? So we can.
If we're doing so, it would be because we're going to evaluate if there's some special circumstance here that doesn't meet the eye. Every property owner is required to have service. So if the argument is simply that he doesn't want service, we're not going to accomplish anything. But if there's some issue beyond that, we could try to resolve it.
Well, regarding the pricing, the speaker has suggested that they can monopolize. Would you please walk us through kind of the agreement that the council was in full session, was aware of and agreed to?
Well, the city has issued a franchise to Vortec to provide our services. It was a competitive process. The pricing was part of that process, and any future changes would come back before the city council. So in that sense, it's completely legal. This is done all over the country, probably more often than not these days. And I don't think that the city council has any issue in terms of the legality of the franchise. It's certainly a competitive process that was legally approved.
A follow-up on
City Attorney.
I just want to add briefly that pursuant to the agreement, Vortec would not be able to discontinue service for non-payment, so they'd have to continue to provide service at that address regardless of whether they're receiving payment or not.
And simply to follow up on what the city manager and city attorney have stated, usually when we receive information like this, we want to review the property to see if it's exempt from service. There is an exemption under the municipal code, which is why we recommend that it be pulled so that we can review that and bring it back to the council if necessary at a later date.
And if the amount that's delinquent is paid prior to the actual roll being updated with the lien, that could still take place? The lien could be avoided?
Yes, there will be some accounts that have been paid since the list was presented to the council. In fact, we received an updated list this morning. In fact, several people paid outside before the meeting began. They will all be removed from the list prior to the roll being sent to the tax collector.
And so that's the process that's available.
And that is present within the language of the resolution.
Thank you.
Well, the
Yes.
problem is that I cannot pay, I cannot afford it, like I told you. And I already did my own research, and it costs me like $1 if I go dump my own trash to the landfill. So to me, it's just waste of money. I'm not gonna pay extra $50 that I don't have. And like I said, I always go to the landfill, so what is the purpose for me just because I have somebody to go pick it up from my house? Why?
Well, I think that's already been explained to you. Do appreciate you coming out and voicing your opinion at this time.
Move for approval.
Second.
Oh, excuse me, we have another speaker. Carmel Rowe? Is this the item 10?
It's for the trash, right?
Yes.
Okay, so,
You're still under oath.
yeah, great. So I been a landlord here for 22 years, and I've had to pay trash here on my water bill for 22 years. And I'd like to tell you that when you guys transferred over, Burtech did not send out bills for months. By the time I first got my first trash bill on my property, it was $400. Okay, I've since paid it. I got it down to $100, and I've been keeping it current. But I have several tenants. Maybe I got 4 or 5 properties on the list because my tenants are behind on their water bill, which are low-income people, and yet you're going to lien me and my property for their trash bill when the problem was really that you guys should have gave people a little more notice. You should have sent out bills, and maybe you should have just had the water department continue to collect the money, because this is a problem. Now we're wasting staff time, we're wasting Burtech time, we're wasting people's time over $54. That guy just had a problem over $54. Hey, maybe we ought to take the city block grant funds and pay his freaking trash bill for him. Okay, that would be a proper use. All right? I just want to let you know that before you guys go ahead and you assess people liens and fines, you ought to think about what you are doing to our community. You guys are breaking it. You are breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down. And since I am still under oath, I'd just like to say that anybody who voted yes on that HUD action plan, if they run for the mayor, do not vote for them. The only one worthy is Mr. Nickel. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public speakers for item number 10. We've got a motion in a second. No further discussions. Please vote.
And the item is adopted. The motion was made by Mr. Valdivia, seconded by Mr. Mulvihill, and passed 7-0.
Thank you. And this closes our public hearing for item number 10. Next public hearing is now open for item number 11. Recommendation is accept for final reading and adopt an ordinance adopting by reference Chapter 3 of Division 3 of Title 2 of the San Bernardino County Code related to the abatement of fire hazards and hazardous trees with local amendments. There are no speakers.
Move for approval.
Second.
Councilman Nickel.
Yeah, I just had one question. Do we have a map of the 700 properties that are cited in the agenda item? Is it part of the presentation? I just wanted to get a sense of where they're located. There was no map in the backup.
Yeah, high hazard area, also known as the HHA, has not changed. It will not change with this resolution. Conceptually, it's all the houses that are directly abutting the foothills within your ward, sir. During the course of this meeting, I did request that a map be sent to you and CC'd you on the email, so you will have that research.
But there's no map as part of today's presentation?
As far as the agenda packet, I'm not aware of one, and I do not see one in there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion. I'm not sure that was simultaneous.
And a second.
Councilman Charette, and second by Councilman Mulvihill. Thank you.
And the motion was made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Mr. Mulvihill, and it passed 7-0.
Thank you. That concludes our public hearing for item number 11. The public hearing is now closed. Next on our agenda is item number 12. This is to receive a presentation of the completed financial audits for fiscal year 2016. This will be presented by Brent Mason, Director of Finance.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. I am pleased to present this afternoon the audit for the 2016 financial statements. The audit is required action that comes out of the Finance Office every year. This will be the third time in less than a year, actually, I've been standing in front of you to present an audit update from the catching up on the audits that have been delayed. So an audit is required annually that hasn't happened, and that's had some consequences for us, as you're aware of. Typically, they're required to be done by March 31st each year. It's a federal grant requirement and a state controller's office requirement. And with the filing this year of the 2016 audit on, I believe it was March 29th, we are current. We filed currently for the first time since 2010. So that was encouraging. Pardon me?
Good job.
Oh, well, it wasn't me. It was other folks. But I'll pass your kudos along to them. Our auditor is the Poon Group, and they have done all three of those audits. The most recent is part of a 5-year renewal that you adopted a couple months ago of their contract. As a result of having done so many audits so quickly, they become, as you would guess, kind of a fixture in the department, as well as very efficient at the process. And so as a result, that's been a good relationship, and I was pleased to have the recommendation approved to renew their contract for the 5 years. They do a good job. They're very present and assist a lot with some of the challenging issues, particularly with bankruptcy and so forth. So it's been a good relationship. The auditor's opinion is what I want to first talk about. Again, this report also is very similar to the other two I've given you. That things have not changed that much in terms of the actual audit results, and we'll explain that a little bit further. The auditor's opinion is typically an unmodified opinion. That's what you're aiming for, and unfortunately that's not what our audit opinion is. An unmodified opinion would indicate that the auditor was, one, able to perform all their work, and two, had no problems with the results that they found from the work. Our audit opinion is what's called a modified opinion, and we'll go into that in more detail, but it indicates there was some limitation on the auditor's ability to perform all their test work. They didn't find any problems, they just couldn't perform all the test work, and we'll explain that in a bit, what that had to do with. The particular modification relates only to the federal state grants fund, the low moderate income housing funds, and then what they refer to in the single aggregate column in the reports as the remaining funds, which are smaller funds that are not reported individually. It doesn't sound good, but the specific limitations they had on their work are things that primarily have to do with blending in the successor agency into the city. And as you have heard from me before, that has to do a lot with some of the documentation and so forth they've been able to use to support things like collectability of receivables on agency notes, the proper valuation of the land held for resale that we're selling those properties, and so that's all okay to happen, but nonetheless the values that they should be put on the books at, we can't support very well or adequately for their purposes. The same thing with the capital assets, the documentation originally where you split between a depreciable and an undepreciable value. We don't have stuff for that either. And then the last piece is the city's compensated absences, because that's tied up in the bankruptcy. That's a citywide issue which will resolve itself very shortly then as we exit bankruptcy. So while modifications to their opinion are not good, they aren't any different, and staff are currently working on those things. They're big projects to try and use alternative procedures to come up with the results that we need to make the auditors happy. Specifically right now we're working on the agency notes receivable, and there's a whole lot of those receivables, and in terms of trying to just kind of rake through those and figure out what is a collectible balance and work with the staff that's the former EDA folks to just kind of create a file where we can stand and look somebody in the eye and say, this is the collectible balance of those notes receivable today, and then track it going forward. Making good progress. We hope to clear that by the 16-17 report, as well as I mentioned a moment ago, the compensated absences should be taken care of as well, because the BK resolution will take care of that. What's important to note is that what's not part of that opinion modification, it's not the general fund, it's not the other large funds where we, for instance, the gas tax fund, the Measure I fund, integrated waste, which was still part of that reporting period. And so, again, I don't want to give anybody the impression that the statements are not reliable. That's not true at all. It's just that some of the numbers related to successor agency could not be fully audited. Specifically in the general fund, the net position grew by $16 million to a total of $34 million. And so that's a good gain. You'll recall that during that fiscal period of 15-16, BURTEC had made a purchase of assets of the refuse fund, which initially went into the refuse fund, but then was transferred to the general fund as a one-time revenue associated with the general fund's acceptance of the pension liability. So that became a kind of a windfall to the general fund. And the other $4 million of that growth was simply expenditure savings, primarily vacancies that we've had, that together put us in a position of being able to grow the general fund balance. Of that total, about $13 million is restricted or reserved still for the bankruptcy plan. And that's just the amount of dollars the 20-year plan calls for the general fund contributing to fully fund bankruptcy costs then. But that would leave us at a general fund reserve balance of $21 million, which is ahead of the 15% target we have discussed before. That is healthy for a city of our size and complexity. And so it's about an 18% reserve right now. The exact amount for the BK settlement costs is unknown, as those are things are being settled all the time and resolved, and so that will, we believe that'll be sufficient, and there could potentially be some residual positive coming back out of that as well. With that, the mayor and the council are asked to receive the report, and I'm here for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Councilman Valdivia.
Brent, awesome job. We appreciate your hard work. Can you go back to the reserve? I think that's it.
Yeah.
So in our recent budget workshop, I don't remember hearing the reserve amounts. Can you explain that a little bit more? And was that actually captured in the budget workshop, or maybe I just missed it?
We talked about it briefly. I made reference to the mid-year report, which I gave several months ago, which at the time had positive results for the current year, looking to be about $7 million, adding to the prior year. And so that would grow that number by $7 million.
Okay. So the reserve target of 15%, that was agreed upon by the council, is that right?
We have not done a formal policy. It's kind of, it's not an industry standard. There's a lot of varieties on what an industry standard would be or could be. That's a policy this council should adopt, and we will come forward when we kind of get ourselves stabilized, I guess, to talk about that kind of thing. Getting past the bankruptcy will be helpful because we need to know where we're starting to know better where we should be ending. But 15% is a healthy reserve for a city our size, and so that's what my recommendation probably will be.
Okay. And then, so the $21 million, is that actually, that's money set aside for what exclusive purpose then?
It's not for anything exclusive at all. It's unspoken for, in other words. So it's the residual available fund balance in the general fund.
Very good.
The very rainy day fund.
I want to salute, I think, Mayor, you invited Mr. Nickel and I want to certainly appreciate the good work of our mayor for moving this forward. I know that you were passionate and concerned about the audits, and under the old charter provisions, we had the auspices and care of the mayor's office to get the audits done. So we're very grateful for your work on it, Mayor, and also Mr. Nickel for your hard work and good questions. I also joined you on that committee, and it was good work, and certainly the staff that really made a lot of inroads in our the group that actually assisted on this. So, good job. Move for approval.
Councilman Valdivia, I believe we did have a discussion about a reserve. I don't remember it being at this budget workshop, but I think at the prior one, I think we did talk about establishing a reserve, but I don't think at that time, as I recall, that we established an amount or a percentage. But it was discussed at the prior budget workshop for the the current year that we're in, to work on building that. That was my recollection.
For the general fund budget.
For the general fund reserve, correct. I have a question. Excuse me. Do you have a question? No. On page 299 of the report, it's the City of San Bernardino Statement of Revenues, Expenses, and Changes in Net Position for Proprietary Funds.
Okay.
There's an item there showing us a transfer out of $14 million.
Okay.
And then on page 293, in governmental funds, under the general fund, there's a transfer in of about $15 million. So is the $14 million, is that what is part of the $15 million?
Yes. It would have come out of the refuse fund and then
Out of the
into the general fund, yes.
And so that was part of the $15 million that was the transfer into the general fund.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right, Councilman Nickel?
Yeah, and maybe you can just explain to me the specific opinion modification as pertains to the proper evaluation of the successor agency property. What specifically does that mean?
It means that we don't have a lot of original documentation to explain, to demonstrate what we paid, and therefore, trying to think, when you get an evaluation report as well to demonstrate that we paid the right amount, et cetera.
Are we valuing that portfolio based on the original purchase price, or are we valuing that portfolio based on the actual current appraised value?
Because this is land held for resale, it's designed to be purchased for resale, which is what the EDA did. And so it takes on the nature of like an investment. Not that you're looking to make money necessarily, but it's not capital as like a building where you're going to put your offices in and so forth. As a result, you put it at historical cost, and then when an event occurs that signifies the value is less, which is usually a sale transaction for less than cost, is when you would take that write down. Very common, obviously, in EDA transactions, but not. But all that history, when we just brought the balances over from the EDA, when their general ledger was merged into ours, and so we don't have all that documentation.
So the bottom line is we don't know what we paid for those properties originally.
We have no reason to believe it's anything other than because they had clean audit opinions previously, but that by itself is not enough in the circumstances that when you merge the two together, the new auditor should be able to see those documents. And so what we can do is we can get updated, appraisals, that kind of thing, to give us a valuation currently to support that, or if that valuation came in, it's saying at that time it should have been some other value. So there are alternative procedures we can do with some work to be able to clear those modifications. But if you will, we've kind of gone after the lower hanging fruit to start with. That doesn't cost you more money. It's just staff working on pulling files, scrubbing files, and so forth. And that's what the first one is with notes receivable.
And what effect does that have on the disposition of those properties eventually?
Zero, because they're going to be sold for whatever they're valued at today. And so if we paid,
regardless of what they were paid,
if we paid $2 million for a property and it's worth $1 million today, and that's what we get for it, or if that's our desire to sell for $1 million because of some other reason, then that would carry the transaction. Right. Or vice versa, if it's worth 3 now, you might get 3 instead of 2.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much for that report. Appreciate it. Next is item number 13. That doesn't require a vote. Just to receive and file. Thank you. This is the Charter Implementation Update, Ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 2.50 of the City of San Bernardino Municipal Code to implement the provisions of the newly adopted city charter, personnel commissioner appointments, amendments to the civil service personnel rules, and delete the chief examiner classification and establish the administrative services officer job description and classification.
Mayor, members of the council, as you're aware, since the voters passed the new charter, we've been working to try to implement all the provisions. This is a complex process, and so we have a variety of actions that we've been taking over the last several months, and we continue to bring things forward to you. At your next meeting in June, we will be scheduling a special study session to address some other personnel issues, commissions, compensation levels, and things. But again, we're starting to move through this process. This evening, we're focused on the initial stages of dealing with the change from our Civil Service Commission to our Personnel Commission. Rebecca Kramer has been working with the City Attorney's Office and our Special Counsel, Kim Barlow from Jones Mayor, and we're recommending this evening that you adopt an ordinance, or accept for first reading an ordinance that, again, begins to make some of those changes, specifically changing our Civil Service Commission to a Personnel Commission. There's some other changes, though, because of the timing, and both Kim and Rebecca can walk through the very specific issues related to the ordinances and the rules, but given the timing of some of these things, there will be other actions that we need to bring back to you at a later date. The item that I specifically wanted to go on to before I have the ladies talk about the very specific resolutions and ordinances is we're also recommending, as part of this transition, to take Rebecca Kramer's position. Rebecca, as you're all aware, is our chief examiner. She's dealt with the Civil Service Commission. She's done a remarkable job over the last several years. She was initially hired as a call taker, and we see this as an opportunity to expand Rebecca's role within the organization. And I want to make sure I'm the one that says all this, because Rebecca was far too shy to speak about all the great things she's done for the organization. So we're going to use this as an opportunity to change her position, broaden her scope, and so that is one of the resolutions that you have before you this evening we're recommending approval on. So now Rebecca's going to talk about the changes to the ordinance, and then the personnel rules, and then again answer any questions that the council has.
Mayor, Council, thank you for having us this evening to speak before you. Before you is a request to repeal and replace as part of the charter implementation process. This is the next phase, to repeal and replace Chapter 2.50 of the Municipal Code. This would be the first reading for that replacement, and that's going to update so that we're accurately reflecting in our Municipal Code the changes that were requested in implementation with the adoption of our new charter that was approved by voters in November of 2016. The secondary action, as an interim phase, we need to make sure that we're able to fulfill the obligations that we have before us in terms of changing the function of the Civil Service Commission to the Personnel Commission, which will now be responsible for hearing disciplinary appeals for employees. And so before you tonight is a request to formalize that action, appointing as an interim step the Civil Service Board of Commissioners as the Personnel Commission, so that we have a body that is able to proceed with those disciplinary appeals. In June, you will have an opportunity to have a workshop to more fully discuss all of your commissions, including the Personnel Commission. At that time, you could establish a different makeup of the commission, appoint different members if you so choose to do that. But this gives us that time frame to ensure that we're meeting our obligations, but at the same time that you'll have an opportunity to go through a far more extensive review. In addition to updating or appointing the Personnel Commission, we are asking you to formalize the change in the civil service rules anywhere that it identifies that the Civil Service Board would take action. Under the new charter, the Personnel Commission's sole responsibility is to hear disciplinary appeals. And so we're asking you to take formal action to change the rules so that anywhere that it relates to disciplinary actions, it's the Personnel Commission that will be taking action instead of the instead of the Civil Service Board of Commissioners. So that's the action that you'll be taking this evening. A more complete review of our personnel rules is underway. We'll be bringing those back before you in probably June at the same time that you do your workshop on commissions, and then asking you to take action to make additional updates probably in early July is the time frame that we're looking to move that forward. Any place currently in our civil service rules that the Civil Service Board would take action that's outside of the disciplinary appeal process by your action tonight will be now handled through the appointing authority or the city manager or the water board in the case of the water department. So those will be handled administratively if it's not related to disciplinary appeals.
Thank you. And when will the second hearing second reading be brought forward?
At the next council meeting.
Next council meeting?
Yes.
Thank you. And then the effective date, if it's approved then?
30 days.
It's 30 days.
Plus one.
Plus one. 30 plus one.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Miller, I do have a question for you. I know that this is just the very beginning of starting to assess, evaluate these changes and making them happen.
Right.
how long do you think it'll start? Or how long will it take to get the full charter implemented?
We're hoping, remember, the work plan that we presented to you at one of the very early study sessions was actually about a 7-month work plan, and so we're well into that. We're a good 3 or 4 months into that. So we're hoping just a few more months. June will be a very important time period. We're hoping to schedule that special council meeting with you. We have a big agenda for that meeting. Certainly, as Rebecca indicated, we would discuss boards and commissions, and this is an interim step that you're taking with respect to these appointments to give you a chance to have a very robust conversation about what you want in terms of your boards and commissions. We'll also talk about compensation, some of the elected official positions, and then we hope to present these personnel rules to you. One of the things the council, I'm sure, will recall is that within our various MOUs with our employee groups, we have a lot of those MOUs that have provisions. They're really probably more appropriately placed in a personnel rules, so we're in the process of gathering all those so we can present those to you and have a chance for you to go through those.
All right, so hopefully everything will be implemented before the end of the year?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Those workshops, is the idea to hold those on Mondays or on just off Wednesdays, or have you?
Certainly, we can do that at the council convenience, but given that we are moving in June fortuitously from a Monday meeting, I figure you haven't programmed your Mondays out yet, so I'm kind of hopeful that a Monday will work for you. But again, it would be based on the council's convenience. I do think, though, that Mondays work because you won't have had a chance to schedule something else on those Mondays you would have otherwise been here.
Thank you. Any further questions? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilmember Mulvihill. No further questions. Please vote.
Item 13, the motion to approve was made by Ms. Motquez, second by Mr. Mulvihill, and it passed 7-0.
Thank you. Next is item number 14, property tax exchange related to the Local Agency Formation Commission, 3188A. Reorganization include annexations to the City of San Bernardino and to San Bernardino County Fire Protection District Zones, FP5 and FP5, San Bernardino, and detachment from County Service Area 70. Marcus Deutsch.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this item. I want to give you a little bit of background that goes beyond just the hard numbers that you'll hear about this evening. This annexation involves an entitled project, the proponent of which, Montecito Equities, would like to annex into the city of San Bernardino. And I'm here on behalf of Montecito Equities this evening. As I said, this is an entitled project, and by virtue of a landowner petition, it's now pending through the LAFCO process, and we look forward to annexation into the city of San Bernardino in the near future. The issue from our standpoint is simple. It's this. If this property tax sharing arrangement is not approved, it's been approved by the county. If it's not approved by the city, there's a statutorily mandated process that the city and the county will have to go through in order to, in effect, arbitrate whether this is a good plan or not a good plan. It's a non-binding arbitration. So at the end of the day, either the city or the county could refuse to come to agreement. If that happens, this annexation will go nowhere, the project will not come into the city, and the project will likely never occur. So there's a lot hanging in the balance for Montecito Equities this evening, and as you consider the policy matters related to this and the hard numbers, I hope you'll keep in mind that there's a project out here hanging in the balance over your action tonight. So thank you very, very much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? No, turn the time over to City Manager.
Yes, I'm pleased that the gentleman just gave that report, because I think it does set the context of this item a little better. This is an item that has come to us, as he said, because under the LAFCO process, before they take action to approve an annexation, approve or disapprove, they first go out and seek the property tax sharing agreement. And in this particular case, it's getting to us on May 15th, and the deadline for that action is May 17th. And we just got the item, so it's not like there was a lot of time for us to deal with this before now. The issue before us is an issue really of equity, in that we're being asked to accept a tax sharing agreement that basically says that the city of San Bernardino is not entitled to any of the property tax revenue. That's largely because we did the fire annexation agreement that sends all of our basic property tax and 35% of the VLF in lieu property tax to the fire district. What isn't clear under that agreement is what happens when new areas are brought to the city for annexation. That's not covered specifically in the agreement that was done. The city staff's assumption looking at this is that an area that's already being served by the county fire and is now coming into the city, that we're going to have extra services, extra costs for services. The fire district's already serving it. It doesn't mean they won't have some extra costs in the future, because they may. That this is a situation where the city should have been in a position to receive some part of the property tax going forward. If we agree to this annexation on the basis that we don't receive any of the annexation, any of the property tax, we're essentially setting a precedent going forward that says that we're concurring with the concept that new annexed areas don't render any property tax to the city. Arguably, that could be negotiated later, but at this point, that's where we are on this particular annexation. The amount of money we're talking about right now today is very small. The report from the county suggests $195 is all we're talking about. The process that the gentleman addressed, the alternate review process, will cost more than that. The property, though, when it develops, will be worth more. And in the future, other annexations that occur will be worth more. And so the real question is, should we try to use this process to find out what a neutral third party believes is the right approach to allocating property tax for newly annexed areas? Perhaps this adjudication process, this process that includes mediation and non-binding arbitration, perhaps that would be informative to us in finding out whether or not our position is fair, that we believe that we should be entitled to some amount of property tax with an annexed area. So as we sit here tonight, we really have this dilemma that if we decline to accept this agreement, then it does throw us into that mandatory process, alternate dispute resolution process. And we will then go through that, and that will take some time. As the gentleman says, at the end of the day, if either party still declines, then it does end the annexation application. And obviously, for people who believe it's a good annexation, that would be a shame. And we still have an opportunity as this process goes to decide whether or not we want to let this process end the annexation. But it does put us into a process where we can get a third-party opinion as to whether or not our position is right or wrong as it relates to property tax from a newly annexed area. That's why it's on the agenda tonight. Staff's feeling is that we would be better served to go forward with that alternate dispute resolution process than to accept a precedence at this stage.
Councilman Surratt.
Would you explain that again?
Yeah.
Alternate?
I may actually have to have Mr. Graham come up and help me on that part of it.
Because I think I'm hearing you say that you're not supporting an action tonight to approve.
I am recommending that the city council not approve the tax sharing agreement and to let it then go into this alternate resolution process. Mr. Graham can explain it. It's three-part, and I think it'd be better to listen to his explanation.
Okay, but in doing so, keep in mind, are we turning down new housing by doing this? I mean, we're risking not having this ever get done. And certainly property taxes are important to us, and I don't want to set a... Huh?
And so is housing.
And so is housing, to the whole state.
Yeah.
The whole state. We are dying for housing. We are in a housing crisis in this state of California. And the more we say no to housing developments...
We're not saying no to housing development. Is there a risk that the applicant could say, I'm going away, I'm not going to put up with this? Sure. It's a trade-off issue. That's why I said it's not an easy issue. It's a trade-off issue. And the question is, does the city council want to accept that from now on we will have no tax incentive to annex new property? If we're comfortable with making that decision tonight, then I would say approve the agreement and we'll go forward. But if it's uncomfortable, as it is to me, to say that that's okay, because there's a lot of future in that, then my position is that we really ought to go through this process and find out whether our position is fair or not.
And to do that, we're risking losing the deal. I mean, not losing the development. Is that right?
But what I would say is that as you go through the process, you can still decide to accept the property tax agreement. You don't have to, we don't have to put our heads down and go through it the whole way. It may be useful to find out from a third party whether or not the agreement that we signed with the county does in fact foreclose us from annexation property tax. My understanding is it doesn't reference it. So that's the trade-off. We're trading off a future revenue source
on other annexations
in return for being able to move quicker on this one, which does in fact offer the potential of some housing. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Graham?
Yes. The city manager did an excellent job of summarizing the process that we would be going through if the council does not act on the resolution tonight. The first step is relatively benign, and it's we would hire a third-party consultant to do, the county and the city would hire a third-party consultant to do an independent financial analysis of the projected cost of services and the projected revenue, and would make a recommendation on a fair split between the two. This process shall not exceed 30 days, although the city and the county can extend that if necessary. If the city and county are unable to come to a resolution by use of a third-party consultant, they would then be required to mutually select a mediator and go to mediation. If that doesn't work after 30 days and we don't want to extend it, then we go to non-binding arbitration. And if that doesn't work, the arbitrator is going to send a recommendation to both this body and the Board of Supervisors. And if this body doesn't approve of that, you're going to have to do so at a public hearing and state your reasons for why you don't think that that's a good deal for the city. This process, as far as I know, after speaking with LAFCO and my colleagues in other cities, has not been engaged in by any city and county in the state of California since the law was passed. I do think step one, though, is relatively straightforward, and that's all that staff is recommending, is get an independent, not the city, not the county, an independent evaluation of what the revenues are going to be from this area, how much is it going to cost to actually provide fire services, and how much is it going to cost to provide the other city services to the area.
Councilman Mulvihill.
Yeah, I see there's a big issue there, and this isn't just housing. And I also agree with Councilman Charette that housing is a major issue in the Inland Empire and all over California. But there's another broader, longer-term issue in this case. And I just, once we settle the issue of the property taxes, the annexation could come back again. Am I
It'll still be active.
It'll still be active. So the point is that what we might be doing now, I'm not quite sure how everybody else feels, but it seems to me there's a much longer-term issue that we need to look at than just this particular project. And in fact, this project could come back once and I'm not quite sure how this arbitration mediation issue, how long that's going to take. Do you have any notion how?
The statute has 30 days set at each phase, so 90 days. But the city and county, if one of these steps is working particularly well and we want to give it some time, we are able to extend it.
Okay. So I guess that answers my questions. I think we really need to think in the longer term, and because, face it, we're not quite sure where annexations are going to take place in the future. We've got a lot of county pockets that are within the city, and of course, those kinds of tax issues are already settled in some cases, but the point is that there's annexations that are going to be taking place in the future. We need to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Nickel? No? So
I think I would just, I think I concur with our staff recommendation. I think this is precedential. I think that the situation we find ourselves in because of the annexation that occurred into the fire district warrants us to take a step back and ensure that we are making the right decision moving forward. My understanding of the underlying purpose of property tax is to mitigate the costs associated with maintaining the infrastructure and the associated services for those developments. I mean, that's really the function of a property tax. And so I think by not doing this, I think we set ourselves up potentially to significantly put ourselves into a potential deficiency in terms of long-term revenue needed to provide adequate services to an area that I do believe can and should be developed. So with that, I think that I will support the staff position this evening. If it takes a special motion to that effect, is that what we're needing, is some type of a...
There's no motion required to reject the resolution. You just don't have to pass it, and then we get thrown into...
And the process will just...
But I would recommend that the council give the authority to the city manager to retain the third-party consultant, because the timeframes on those are going to be relatively short.
I will make a motion to that regard, giving the city manager whatever authority is necessary.
I'll second.
I would recommend the motion be that the city move forward with the alternative dispute resolution process and give the city manager the authority to do what he needs to do to implement that.
Did we record that, Gigi?
So my understanding of this essentially is that declining to move forward with the annexation, it doesn't close the door for the potential future, but if we did not decline, it would close the door for future taxation, for future tax, for this particular property, because that's what's being asked. Yes. That we accept the agreement that's been put forward by the county, which is to not allow for the city to capture any property tax, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I will make a motion to that effect, authorizing alternative dispute resolution in addition to retaining a consultant.
Thank you. Councilman Schroeder?
Yeah, I know the developer and Mr. Ostoich, who just spoke a minute ago. I'm interested to know, I think I'm clear that I'm hearing that the action that we might take tonight will not kill that project. But I'd like to hear from somebody that's involved with the development if we're risking killing the project. I agree that we don't want to set any precedents for annexation down the road, and it sounds as though we may be doing that. So, but I also, this is kind of a catch-22, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that we don't want to set precedents, but we want housing developments to continue. Is that a fair characterization?
Yes, and that's why I didn't really get into the numbers when I spoke. I feel like they're policy considerations that it's inappropriate for me to get in the middle of, but I do want to tell you, I don't want there to be an implication that the developer is going to throw up his hands and walk away. You know, we were approved by this council in 2014. It's now mid-2017. Developer's still spending money. He's not walking away. Our fear is more that we get caught up in policy arguments and fears about setting precedent that ultimately lead to either the county or the city rejecting this deal. If that happens, whether we want to proceed or not, we're finished. And that would be a shame, because the other thing I didn't say, and I will say now, is that this project provides for a public service fee built into the structure of this project that will produce enough revenue to the city each year that all of our projections, not our projections, but the fiscal analysts that prepared the plan for services, projects that this project will operate at a surplus each year. So what you feel you may be giving up in property taxes to the county, in my opinion, you're getting back more in terms of the public service fee, which you'll have complete discretion over. So again, I want to say that this is not a case of the developer saying, if you don't do this, we're walking, because the developer is very committed to this project, has been for years. They have spent a fortune on this development and will keep pushing forward. But we're fearful of getting caught up in something that's bigger than we are, that sacrifices this project because of a fear of precedent or some such thing. So I hope I answered your question.
If we were to go into this, arbitration? Is that basically?
That's
Can
not.
you clarify that for me?
Well, as he said, the first step is just getting an independent financial analysis. If we're not satisfied there, then it offers an option of going to mediation. If that doesn't work, then we have an option of going into arbitration.
Will we get another bite at the apple on this project? I mean, no matter what, I mean, if we were to...
The city and the county could come to agreement at any stage along the way. The city or the county could waive their position and agree to the tax sharing agreement at any stage. So there's multiple opportunities for the city at some point to decide, let's go forward with the project, not worry about the revenue, or alternative.
City Attorney.
And in fact, the idea is that the process somewhere along the line is going to facilitate either an agreement or an understanding of the rationale behind whatever the ultimate recommendation is, such that it'll induce or motivate both parties to reach an agreement. That's not necessarily going to happen, but that's the intention of each step of the way.
And to the council member, that agreement will come back to the council. You are going to be getting something back on this.
Councilman Valdivia.
Mark or Stephen, where's the property located? Where's the property in question?
Up in the...
It's up in the Vertimont area, north of Myers Road.
There's a map in the packet.
Packet page 493 has the map.
It's hard. It's kind of hard to make it out on our computers here, but so it's just north of. It's in the 5th Ward.
Yes, sir.
Approximately how many acres does anyone?
I think it's 379 acres.
Yeah, it's in the staff report.
It might be a little bit less now.
Staff reporting takes about 350 acres. Did that answer your question? Councilmember Marquez?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just, I'm really struggling with this one because I just don't want to close the door and just to find out if we're losing the housing aspect of it. I'm just, call it paranoia or whatever, but we need housing desperately in the city, and I'm looking at the options and the scenarios. I'm kind of uncomfortable with the current motion that's being made. That's all.
All right. No further questions? Councilman Barrios?
Mark, is there any kind of compromise where we can still move forward but still yet have everything that you guys want to do happen?
Well, I'm hoping that the first step in this process might get us there. If it's a 30-day process, For instance, if there's an independent financial analysis that comes back and says that the city comes out basically whole on this, or that the amount of potential loss is so minor that it's not significant, then I would say we should say, okay, it's a precedence, but it's a precedence without real significance. On the other hand, if it comes out and says that there's a very substantial issue associated with that, or that perhaps the county's not looking at it, the right way, then I think that's an appropriate conversation for us to have with the county, and perhaps the county would be willing to take a different position on it. Right now, it's an all or nothing situation for us, and it just doesn't seem like we should. I didn't feel like I was doing my job to just let that pass and not suggest that the city council deal with a presidential issue of this sort. In 30 days, if we were sitting right where we are and the independent review doesn't really resolve the issue, you'll have a choice at that point to vote yes on the agreement and move forward, or if you're not happy with what we've learned in that process, then we would move on to the mediation step. Anywhere along the line, we could resolve this between the county and the city if there was a desire to do so.
Okay, so pretty much to simplify everything, we need to check our 6 before we make a deal.
I would say we ought to know what we're doing before we make the deal, and this came up at a very late date for us to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Schmidt.
I just want to ask if anyone knows why it's coming at the 11th hour like this. And you said we got something on the 5th. When?
The county dealt with it at their last meeting, which was a couple of days after our last meeting. And so the next possible date for us to deal with it was tonight, and the deadline is the 17th. So in between, there have been, and I don't want to present the county in the wrong light here. I think they're presenting what they think is the right, the right policy. But in between, there has been some discussion between their staff and our finance staff where different tax sharing agreements were put forward. We were actually looking at one that did give us some revenue just a week before, and we were actually considering bringing that in and recommending approval. But right before it went to the county board, that agreement got replaced with this one that provided no revenue. And at that point, we said, no, we better bring this in and talk about it.
Okay, we recognize the developer at the dais. He's there. We recognize him, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, honorable council members. My name is Jeff Weber. I represent Montecito Equities. And, we've been working on this for a while now. And I would agree tonight with the sort of direction I see council going. I think we should take the time and bring in the third party. And let's take a look at the numbers. I mean, our concern obviously isn't just our project, it's the long-term implications with this. And I think that's a good step. Like they said, we can always come back, but it doesn't hurt us to go through this process. And let's make sure we get the numbers right, because from our own opinion, I think the county's being a little greedy at the moment, and that's just my opinion, but I think that there's room for some negotiations there, and I think we should pursue those avenues. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. That's very helpful.
Welcome.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion. I think we have a second. Please vote. Yes. Right. He recommended that this go forward to the ADR.
That we retain it.
Yeah, he gave direction.
And if necessary, go to ADR. But
The city move forward with alternative dispute resolution process and give the authority to the city manager to implement it.
Well, also to retain the necessary
Do
consultant.
everything he needs to do to
It's a
implement
three-step
it.
process accompanied in that.
Okay. Councilman Valdivia.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, what's the time frame if this were to pass tonight? What's the time frame for the third-party financial analyst to come and take a look at these books, and how can we expedite the process?
Apparently, the process that Stephen was quoting only provides 30 days. I'm not sure when the clock starts on that, but it'll have to be a very quick process.
The clock would start on the 18th, the day after we pass the 17th deadline. It's a very quick process. Luckily, the developer has done a lot of the financial work for us, so I think we have a head start already.
Very good, thank you.
And you've already submitted your votes, and it passed 7-0.
Thank you. Next is item 15A. This is a recommendation to review and discuss the property assessed clean energy programs, recent changes to the San Bernardino Council of Governments, SBCOG Home Energy Renovation Opportunity Program, and provide direction. Andrea Miller.
Mr. Mayor, as you're aware, the San Bernardino County Association of Governments did recently review their HERO program. Nancy's been working with them to understand the issues related to that, and we can answer any questions to the best knowledge that we have. But they did take an action to discontinue that program, given the fact that the mayor and city council have considered PACE programs, and one of the suggestions that you had when you did that was that because we already offered this HERO program, there were other PACE-type providers there, and you wanted to expand the opportunities to homeowners and provide a level of competition. So we wanted just to explain to you what happened with the COG, make sure that you're aware of that, and then answer any questions you have and see if there was other direction you wanted to provide to us with respect to the agreements that we recently entered into for the expansion of the program.
Thank you. We have several speakers. If you please come forward. Deanna Adams. This is for item 15. Your slip says 9 and 15. You want it changed to 21? Okay. Well, there is no 21. Oh, okay, okay. So you don't want to speak on this. Thank you. Thank you. Brandon Edwards.
Everybody, good evening. My name is Brandon. I was here about a month ago when you guys decided to opt into the program for Renew Financial and expand PACE financing for San Bernardino City. And since then, we've had a number of different projects go through for San Bernardino City. And I wish I had some of the homeowners here to talk about that experience and how it helped them, get solar on their roof, finally get a new HVAC unit that they would have gone all summer without. It really helped a lot of homeowners so far, and we're looking forward to expanding that even further with the city. I love the program. I've used it myself. I've used it for solar on my property. I think it's a very viable program. I think it's the way that we could stretch out the payments 25, 30 years makes home improvements extremely affordable for anybody. So one of the reasons why I chose it for my house was just that. I was able to stretch the payments out for a long time, make it extremely affordable, and it makes a lot of sense to finance a home improvement product, especially an energy-related home improvement product, that's permanently attached to the house, and have it financed with the home, and not have to take out a personal loan for it, not have to put it on a credit card, not have to use your hard-earned cash to do so. So for those reasons are why I work for Renew Financial and help homeowners and contractors really every day to provide these benefits. So just wanted to put that in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cedia Lomas.
is Heidi Lamas, and I work. Hi, how are you? My name is Heidi Lamas, and I use California First for my house. In the beginning, we purchased a house in Fontana, and then we didn't have windows. So, and at that time, we didn't have the money to afford them. So, California First helped me to put new windows and then increase the value of my property. After I met this program, my husband and I, we create a company called Daylight Solar Energy, and we hire 6 people now, and then we try to expand next month. And then another good thing about this program is that we create jobs through this California First, because we help homeowners, and then we have now 6 employees, and our employees' job depends on this program. So if California First pays programs they kick out from the city, we're going to lose our jobs as well. And 100% of my income depends on these programs, because we help customers and homeowners improve their houses. Not just for windows, we use it for roofs, we use it for solar. And then at the same time, we increase the value of the property, and we help the environment, because all these types of products, they energy efficiency. So I just wanna, I'm here just to let you know how important is California First PACE program for the homeowners, and as a company, we can create jobs for salespeople, we can create jobs for inspectors, plan checkers, architects, engineers, and electricians, roofers. So I just want to know, I just want you guys to know how important it is for us. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Kells? If you'll give it to the...
Good evening. I am also aware of the sandbag action that occurred just 2 days after the approval of our programs, familiar with the concerns that were expressed at that meeting. So we provided, just being circulated to you now, this fact sheet on PACE, just to put some of the facts on the table that we think are important for you to consider if you are going to consider either getting rid of these programs, which I hope you don't do, or just keeping the status quo, which we believe is, as you heard other speakers, an effective way to create jobs here in the region and here in the city itself. Just a couple of items I want to mention. Some of the legacy projects from the HERO program, from the Renovate program, occurred prior, of course, to this January 1st. On January 1st, a law was enacted that requires all PACE programs by state law to provide summary disclosures and financing estimates that are modeled, in fact, after the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau's know before you owe mortgage disclosure. So we essentially looked to the mortgage industry, spoke to realtors, worked with state legislature, and came up with this disclosure, which really does its very best to make sure that people know exactly what they're doing when they sign a contract. Currently, in this legislature, we actually are pushing a bill to add additional protections to consumers. In no way would this bill detract or take away from the existing protections. We want additional protections. So, for instance, we want to mandate that for all PACE providers, we must not only provide this disclosure that was made into law last year, but also that we call on a recorded line every single homeowner before they sign the contract to once again make sure through a conversation that they know exactly what they're doing. Because if a homeowner signs a contract that obligates them to a significant financial obligation and they don't know what they're doing, that hurts us as a business, it hurts them as a homeowner, and it's just bad for the entire community. So the more people know, the more certain we are that homeowners know exactly what they're signing up for, we think the better it is for the whole industry. So I just want to also point out something I think is particularly interesting for me, and part of why I got into this business, is that, you know, when I was a kid, my parents got ripped off by a contractor who demanded payment up front for some materials and never heard from him again. So on the last page of this handout, you'll see kind of a comparison of what a homeowner gets through a PACE program, our program is in particular, the California First program, and what they don't get if they go on their own. So if you get a home equity line of credit, or God forbid a credit card to pay for these things which have such high interest rates, you don't get the protections that you have here. We make sure, because of our partnership with cities around the state like yours, that people know exactly what they're doing, that they only get good quality products, that they're only working with good quality contractors. So I think actually PACE is part of the solution to that small bit of contractors that are the problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Casey Daly.
Good afternoon. Mayor, Member City Council, Casey Daly, 144 East 3rd Street. I wasn't planning on coming today, but when I saw that this item was on the agenda, I figured I'd come and give a few thoughts. I'm not sure what exactly is going to be discussed, but what I hope ever is discussed, the Mayor and Council decide to maintain and expand any of these programs. I was shocked when I learned that the SB COG voted to not renew all of the contracts for the HERO program. It's shocking to me. I looked at some of the staff report items. I think it was $300+ million of projects were done in San Bernardino County since the program started. I think based on the staff report I read here, $26 million in San Bernardino proper have been done as a result of the program. So this is private money flowing through private citizens in the government to private workers to create private jobs. And the economic engine that this is creating, especially on the heels of the economic downturn and the housing collapse, these are jobs that are sorely needed. You heard from one of the speakers who talked about the jobs that are created. And I think it's important to talk for a second about why it's important for a region-wide program. Because you create an economy of scale. And whether or not a job is being done in Chino Hills or Yucaipa or Grand Terrace, the workers could be right from San Bernardino. The people that own the company could be right from San Bernardino. So while the city of Chino Hills might be doing a job, or Chino or Ontario, those workers could be living, the companies could be based out of San Bernardino. So I just want to strongly encourage the mayor and council to keep these programs in place, expand them where and whenever possible. I would love to see back at the COG the city be a champion for reinstituting the HERO program countywide, because the benefit that it's brought to our region just in the past few years has been significant. I don't know of any other one program that we can point to that's generated $300+ million of private economic activity outside of an infrastructure project in the last few years. So that's my humble request.
Thank you. Councilman Nickel.
Stay there,
Yeah, and I just want to say, there's a couple aspects to this discussion that I think warrant some clarification. First of all, we had a mortgage crisis about 8 years ago, 10 years ago, depending on when you define when it actually began. And I haven't heard a clamor that we need to end mortgages. There were reforms that occurred. Clearly, this is a program that offers consumers options and choices that they may otherwise not have, given their financial circumstances. As a city, one of the discussions we had early on when I joined this council was not just the glut of housing, but the quality of our housing stock. The fact that we have a lot of individuals in the city that are living in homes that are not energy efficient, that are not up to the modern standards, in some cases have deficiencies. In my own home, I had to put on a roof and windows, and this program was the only program available to me at that time. I did not qualify for a HELOC. Okay, and had I used my credit card, God help me, the interest would have killed me. So, it's about choice and it's about options. Now, I'm looking at the agenda item, the backup on page 506, and it goes into sort of a discussion as to the basis of SB COG's reasoning behind their decision. But I'm looking specifically at this paragraph, page 506, toward the top of the page. A proposed unfair business practices class action lawsuit has been brought against Los Angeles County and Renovate America, alleging the municipality took part in a home improvement loan program that overcharged low and middle income homeowners. What's missing from this is the period of time in which those proposed actions took place. Did they take place before or after the reforms that were instituted in January of this year? If they took place prior to those reforms, then I would say that insofar as the PACE programs that we've approved, the issue is more or less moot insofar as the protections that are now in place because of that legislation. So I would just venture to say that the reasoning behind SBCOG's justification to reconsider their participation in the HERO program is not necessarily consistent or in any way comparable in many ways to why we may reconsider. I think there are good protections in place. I think consumers, this is a program that has evolved just like the mortgage industry has evolved over the years, just as other consumer credit institutions have evolved. This is something that is generating positive economic activity and outcomes, not only for our community, but throughout the state, and achieving multiple goals of improving housing stock while improving energy efficiency and giving that option to individuals who may not otherwise have access to the capital or the financing needed to do so. So I would simply say, and I guess this is more or less simply a discussion item this evening, but I would strongly recommend that we remain consistent with the action we've taken to date, and that we'll continue to monitor this issue as time goes by. If there is a sufficient risk, we'll identify it and assess it. But at this point, the justification to me is not here insofar as the basis of SBCOG's rationale.
Councilmember Valdivia.
Thank you, Mayor. I think what's important to know is that the California State Legislature has taken action to address some of the concerns alleged from our public audience and from the emails that I received. The State Assembly Bill 2693, enacted in 2016, suggests that the legislation provides a host of consumer protective capabilities, including a 3-day right to cancel a contract, the provisions to know before you owe, modeled after the home mortgage industry's requirement and their disclosures, which provides and ensures that consumers understand the provisions of the contract. And State Assembly Bill, or Senate Bill 242, introduced this year in 2017, strengthens existing local and state PACE laws and regulations. Senate Bill 242 does not roll back nor in any other way infringes or weakens existing state laws and regulations. In fact, Senate Bill 242 does not take away nor diminish any of the unique local government controls or home rule authority of PACE programs. Essentially, it also does codify many of the consumer protection capabilities and the policies already required by most PACE programs, including those operating under the auspices and care of this committee, which establishes statewide underwriting standards that PACE programs must follow, requires a continuation and confirmation of terms or phone calls, as was alluded to by our presenter, requires that each administrator create a list of eligible products that have been verifiably produced via the Energy Savings, or the label as we know it as the Energy Star List, and that the contractors performing such work must be licensed with the California State Licensing Board, and establishes a clear marketing standard and prohibits program administrators from paying incentives to contractors, which we would know as paybacks. I don't know what the specific ask is, and so my question to our staff is, what is your specific request, and what's the issue?
The specific request is just that you have access to that information. We had represented to you that we had a HERO program. We want to make sure that you're aware that the COG did take subsequent action, and give you an opportunity to discuss those and determine if you want to provide further direction to us.
I think there's I mean, Mr. Nickel alluded to the merit. I think there is no need for us to take action. I think we have already spoken, the council has spoken, and I think this is a moot point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Schreck?
I agree, and I have one question of Mr. Daly, and that is, are you here as Mr. Daly or on behalf of the BIA? I didn't hear you identify that.
I'm here as Mr. Daly, as a resident of the beautiful city of San Bernardino.
Okay, thank you. I'll move to table.
I have a question for Mr. Table.
Once there's a motion to table in a second, there can be no more discussion without a vote.
Thank you.
On item 15, the motion was to table. It was made by Mr. Valdivia. It was seconded by, it was made by Mr. Charette. It was seconded by Mr. Valdivia. And it passed 6-0 with Mr. Nickel absent.
Thank you. Next is item 16. This is open nominations for a member of the City Council to serve as the Mayor Pro Tem until December 20th, 2017.
Nominations?
Nominations are now open.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Fred Charette.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman Nickel.
I thought we discussed this already, but I would like to put forward a substitute motion since the term will be only through the end of this calendar year. It would not make sense for us to simply change just to have another election at the end of December. So I would like to move that we continue the term of our existing Mayor Pro Tem and that we'll take this decision up at the end of December.
We have a substitute motion. Any further discussion? Please cast your votes.
We're voting on the substitute motion.
The item to continue the current Mayor Pro Tem's tenure until the end of the year failed. The motion was made by Mr. Nickel. It was seconded by Ms. Richard, and it failed 4-3.
Original motion was to nominate Councilmember Fred Charette. We had a second. Thank you. Please cast your vote.
And the original motion made by Ms. Marquez, seconded by Mr. Mulvihill, adopted, which makes Mr. Charette Mayor Pro Tem till the end of the year.
Very good. Thank you. Next is item 17. This is a recommendation to accept the final reading and adopt an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino, California, authorizing an amendment to the contract between the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino and the Board of Administration of the California Public Employees Retirement System.
This item was on for first reading a couple meetings ago. We probably could have put it on consent calendar. This is an MOU provision being adopted by the city.
I move that we accept this.
This is item 17.
A second.
We have a motion and a second.
We have the motion made by Mr. Mulvihill, seconded by Ms. Marquez. And the item passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next is item 18, recommendation to adopt a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of San Bernardino approving the settlement and release agreement between the City of San Bernardino and ACAA Limited Partnership related to 542 North Mountain Vernon Avenue, San Bernardino, California, and approving certain related actions.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Mayor.
Councilman Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just need some clarification with this action. I'll be honest with you, I had to reread it several times. It's a little bit complex, but I finally got it. So what this action will do is hold, I guess, ACAA harmless, number one, and number two, taxes hopefully will be waived. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Councilman Valdivia?
Thank you, Mayor. This is long overdue. This is about 3.5 years. I certainly appreciate the staff. Steve, you've done excellent work. You've waited, you're signaling 5 years. It came to my desk about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago. And so I'm just elated to see that our city is moving in the right direction. These were partners right at the get-go of bankruptcy, and they have essentially been holding property and value to this and without any documentation. So to our staff, thank you for expediting this. My calls have gone answered. We appreciate your diligent work and the county efforts. And to our business community investor, thank you. Thank you for your patience with us. Thank you for your investment in our community. Thank you for the risk that you've taken, and we certainly appreciate our business community. Thank you.
Councilman Schreck?
Ditto.
And a few words.
We have a motion. Second.
The motion was made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Mr. Nichol, and it passed 7-0.
All right. Thank you. Next is item 19. Recommendation to adopt attached resolutions giving the city manager and other authorized officers on behalf of the city and the mayor and authorized officers on behalf of the San Bernardino Joint Powers Financing Authority to execute documents that affect the results of settlement negotiations approved by the Federal Bankruptcy Court relative to the 2005 pension obligation bonds, the 1996 lease revenue refunding bonds, and the 1999 refunding certificates of participation. Brett Mason.
Good evening. The item tonight is simply putting in place or formalizing agreements that have been previously negotiated with the City Council or approved by the City Council, but the resolutions are being requested by the third parties to formalize the agreement. And they're all favorable to the city, specifically the changing or restructuring of the debt service reserve funds for the 96-99 transactions creates, as you'll see in the report, over $1.5 million of available funds to capital needs, as there are plenty of things to spend that money on, obviously. And so we're just looking for your approval this evening.
Councilman Mulvihill.
And Brent, this is basically just the information that came out of the exit plan from bankruptcy.
Correct, yeah, nothing new.
Formalizing it, yeah. Thank you.
Councilman Nichol.
Yeah, I was trying to, looking at packet page 556, insofar as the City Hall lease agreement is concerned. I was trying to find the original City Hall lease agreement. Is it part of the backup to this?
The original. The transaction's been refinanced, I want to say multiple times, so I don't believe the original is, no.
Okay. What is the term on that agreement?
I don't have that in front of me. It's I'd have to pull that information.
The question was asked of me. I didn't have an answer. I don't know what the term is. The original agreement isn't part of the backup, so it references an amendment. It references the original agreement, but it doesn't give the original agreement to really understand where we're at in terms of the lease payments to repay the original $16,320,000 of original aggregate principal amount of the lease revenue refunding bonds. Do we know where we're at in terms of that schedule? And
yeah, I simply don't have that in front of me now. Nothing changes on the paying principal component, obviously, with this. It's just changing the structure of the reserve fund. So I'm not here to answer your question, I guess, but I could find that out quickly, but I don't have it.
Yeah, it's not so much related directly to this, other than I was asked what the remaining term is on those bonds.
Actually, one of the comments in the budget workshop last Monday has that, and that's being assembled as well.
We can get that off. I appreciate it. I'll go ahead and second.
Which item, are you talking about City Hall?
Yes, City Hall.
City Hall, I think if you take a look at page 542, indicates that the $1.5 million is through 2023. So I believe that's probably the...
That's the balance?
Yeah. No, you see it says per year through 2023?
Oh, I see. So it's per year.
Probably
so they mature in 2023?
I think it's paid off by then.
The logic would be you no longer need the reserve fund because the debt's matured then, yeah.
It'll mature in 2023.
I'd like to verify that for you formally, but that would be an appropriate assumption to be made from that, I think.
I'll vote to approve. Thank you.
All right. We have a motion.
And the item passes 7-0. The motion was made by Mr. Charette and the second by Mr. Nichol.
Thank you. Next is item 20. This is a report by Councilmember Valdivia regarding the League of California Cities Legislative Action Day.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the League of California Cities Legislative Action Day, held Wednesday, April 19th of this year. It's held at the Sacramento Convention Center regarding several issues. The opening general session had briefings from our league leadership and lobbyists at the in Sacramento. We discussed budget, legislative, and policy updates regarding transportation funding, land use, affordable housing, drones, public safety, et cetera, and certainly enjoyed most of the day meeting with other legislative policymakers throughout our state and certainly our region. That concludes my report, sir.
Thank you. There's no need for making an action on it. If you'd like to vote on it.
I vote to approve his report.
All right, next is public comment on items not on the agenda. Deanna Adams.
Good evening. On May the 1st, I was notified about a URM meeting that would take place on May the 8th. So that was the second Pearl Harbor. And according to Mr. Pisico, there was only 2 reservations made. So what I did, I took his list, and by the way, there's several lists. There's one by the police chief, and there's one by the city attorney. He has 3 pages, and there's one by Mr. Pisico. So I walked the list, and actually I had a lot of fun doing it. I met a lot of people, and I'm disclosing you the name of the streets, which are main streets like Baseline, East Street, Mount Vernon, and so on, the main streets. Each one has an address, the property owner, and also the phone number. Now, I also had the pleasure to read Lucy Jones. And she spoke quite extensively pertaining to the non-ductile concrete buildings, which most concrete buildings that were built using the 1976 building code. Now, who are these people? I would say 90% Mexican, and the rest of them are black, white, and Indian. And tell me, what kind of danger is it really in those particular buildings? For example, if I would go to Noy's Bakery and get a cookie, and the building shakes, I would be out of there in 1 minute. Or perhaps in the adult bookstore. Now, I won't be going there, probably with a philosophy book, but I definitely, when there's a shake, I would be out of there too. So that's the same with the bar. Probably have a Coke. If there's a shake, I would be out there too. The only problem is, I would say the Eagle Thrift, that's upstairs, that would be a problem if there's a shake because you really have to get down. Now, Melita Cafe, I could get out there real quick too because it's just very quick. But I don't see no big apartments. I don't see no big entertainment, massive buildings such as the California Theater, the Santa Fe Depot, and the Sturgeon Center, and all these huge the churches and the apartment buildings. I don't see any of that. So we have an issue. Number one, we have an issue of not contacting the owners. not communicating with the owners. It's a very shady deal, ringing in the people, and those workshops, they are a mess. They're not telling you the truth at all. And so I had the pleasure to meet all of them, and I'm looking forward to talk to them, to talk with them again. But all these buildings here, if there is an issue, I certainly can get out real quick, from the bar to the cafe to the bookstore to the small church, to the consulting firm, to the feed and supply, to the magic carpet. I could get in and out really quick. This is not what Lucy Jones has determined what makes buildings very unsafe. Thank you.
Thank you. Stuart Haniff. Christopher DeKel.
I'll be quick as possible. Good evening, Mayor Davis and esteemed City Council members. I'm Chris DeKel. I'm a resident of San Bernardino, but I'm particularly here tonight as a member of the Rotary Club. In 2016, I attended the Rotary Peace Conference in Ontario, and at this conference I was astonished to learn about the impact of sex trafficking not only throughout the world, but within our community. As part of this reason, I came and formed a small group with our Rotary Club to fight this sex trafficking. While many see sex trafficking as a world issue, it is actually an issue that impacts our community. Our Rotary Club wanted to concentrate on the areas of 6th and G Street. We met with Case and we learned a lot about sex trafficking. It's a very complex and difficult issue to fight. In 2016, our police department had 1 police officer allocated to fighting vice. This was due to the lack of resources and, of course, the city being in bankruptcy. We did turn to Case and ask many things on what we could do to help. What we would like to do is make this issue part of the city and fight it. And what I wanted you to know is our police department has responded. If you go to 6th and G Street now, where there were dozens of girls walking up and down the streets, they're gone. And that has been the result of our hard work of our police department, and I came tonight to commend our police department for their actions and urge them to continue to do so. And as my part, I'm going to continue to go to the Case, which is the county against sexual exploitation, and that is to fight for more resources and more things to help our city. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Roxana Gracia from the Assembly Member Reyes.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I first would like to start off by saying that I attended last Saturday's grand opening and ribbon cutting ceremony at the Bryans E. Haynes and John Cole Skate Park, and it was a fabulous event. It was a packed, and a lot of community members were there, and I was really happy to see the great work that all the agencies put on together to put this, to bring this park to the community. But the reason that I'm here tonight is to invite you all and also the community to an event that we are putting on, and also to invite you to nominate people or community members that are 30 or under that are doing amazing work in the community. We're putting on the Assembly Member Eloise Gomez Reyes is now accepting nominations for the 30 under 30 for the year of 2017. This was an event that was put on before by former Assembly Member Amina Carter, and we are inheriting the event with her blessings. And the categories include arts, business, community activism or volunteer service, education, health services, military, social entrepreneurship, and sports. The nomination deadline is May 31st, and the nominees must live, volunteer, or work in the 47th Assembly District. And that includes Colton, Fontana, Grand Terrace, Rialto, San Bernardino, and the unincorporated areas of Bloomington or Muscoy. But especially I would like for there to be a fair share of San Bernardino residents nominated. So if you know anyone that is 30 and under and doing amazing work in the community, please feel free to nominate those. And you can do it by going to that website right at the bottom of the page, or by calling. And the event is actually going to be on June 24th from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. And you guys are all invited. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate that announcement. Carmel Rowe.
So my public comment, I'm going to talk about the URM a little bit and then move on to a few things. A few of the owners are Salon de Fiesta, Uptowner, Noise Bakery, Mathers Sells Mattresses on Baseline, 562 West Baseline, Francisco Olivia's own Mexican restaurant, 602 West Baseline, Baseline Appliances, also Hispanic owned, 604 West Baseline, Fantastic Cuts, Rosie Cortez, business owner 10 years, 606 Baseline, G&G Transmission, Jamie Gonzalez, 15 years in business, 608 Eddie Shop, Eddie Berman, 408 Guillermo Ocampo, that's West Arrowhead, 304 East Street, Adult Bookstore, Donovan Green, 355 South East Street, Alex Martinez, 101 North East Street, Javier Barilma, 116, 118 East 3rd Street, Inland Consulting, and Meatla Cafe, 1524 West 7th Street, Casa Ramona Academy, Esther Estrada, Big Z's, Southside Saloon, 973 North East Street, Eco Thrift, Belinda Vasquez, 1562 West 5th Street, it's a bar, 2694 North Arrowhead, Yolanda, 1065 to 1067 West 3rd Street, Mr. Leo Hernandez, and the list goes on and on and on, and mostly they are Hispanics. And this is, you guys are spending $125,000 to maybe put an ordinance for unreinforced masonry, which everybody has already complied with the sign, which is all that's needed, which Mr. Persico actually said everybody is in compliance. So I'd like you guys to never put forth an ordinance and to stop wasting CBG money on it. I'd also like to say that I had the Girl Scouts here, Troop 33 today, and they all sat here, and here's their questions. Where does the money really go? How come the homeless live on the street? I think that we have the money to help them, get them off the street. Why isn't San Bernardino improving? Why is this city the worst looking city when all of the city council people had lots of money to give? These are from first, second, third, and fourth graders. I also had them tell me 10 ways to be a good citizen. First one from the first grader is don't make bad decisions. You guys are making bad decisions with our city block grant funds. The next one is be a good citizen. The next one is don't break the law. The next one is help the homeless, love the animals. These are all things that you guys as grown-ups fail. And first graders, second graders, third graders, fourth graders, they all sit here and they know what makes a good citizen. Maybe you guys should take a page out of their book and listen, because that's what they heard tonight. Thank you.
Larry Heasley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, staff. I have a couple questions. Why is the Vermont Community Center still closed? No activity on the construction and repair of the facility. I didn't expect an answer, but that's a question for you to contemplate. We were promised 90 days, and we're at 6 months. It affected the church, a couple of neighborhood association groups, a senior group. They don't have any place now, so we're losing valuable citizens that are finding elsewhere to go because the city's community center cannot be completed in a timely fashion. As part of that, and I've experienced this for 30 years, living in this city and being on the Planning Commission for 13, is there doesn't seem to be any accountability of city employees, i.e., they are allowed to resign rather than being fired. That gives them the chance to move to another city, another location, be rehired without a negative note on their CV. The city employees have, for generally, a basic failure of responsibility and accept responsibility for their positions. No one in this city of the staff seems to be motivated to observe a condition, report the condition if it's not theirs, plan, act to rectify any detriment to the city. So we end up with potential tort liabilities unbelievable. I retired from an agency that was very serious about making sure that the facility was safe for their users. And I'm driving this city and I'm seeing our roadways, our signs, our street lighting, our traffic lights that are not even meeting minimum standards. Why is our city consistently and continuously exposing themselves as a taxpayer to the liability situation? The bankruptcy will not protect in the future from liability. And what's happening is there's a stack of issues coming up. I'm pretty sure the city attorney will find out about that. We have sidewalks that are a tripping hazard. Until somebody, a citizen, falls down and gets hurt and complains about it, the city does not respond. So a little proactivity would be helpful. Thank you.
Hank Mitchell.
Hank Mitchell, 3766 Belmont. I was kind of hoping the fire would stay here a little bit longer. A week ago Monday, or today, a homeless group moved into an area up there by Verdemont next to the pet cemetery. Normally when these homeless groups gather, they leave a mess, they mistreat the area, they could give a rat's behind on how they treat the area or the residents nearby. We've seen that at Denny's. That mess is still not cleaned up. The one that when this one last week formulated, I got a firestorm of emails to me from my neighbors. I won't tell you why they all sent it to me, but then that caused me to make Mr. Nickel, Mr. Scott, and a few others aware of what's going on. I thank you both, Mr. Nickel and Mr. Scott, and all those names that are on there. I recognize a bunch of them. Things are moving along what looks like fast on email. This group actually is presenting a much more serious problem than the one at Denny's and the one down at Meadowbrook Park. They have created a rodeo of vehicles and tents. A couple of them have built actually wooden structures under some of the larger trees, even in the riverbed. And they have got campfires. They're dumping gray water. They're dumping black water effluent. They're going to leave trash, and we know they're going to leave trash. And campfires, and they're sitting in 6-foot-high dry chaparral. Now, why am I so worried about this one than if somebody was at Denny's? Because today, this year, we've had a lot of low pressures. The low pressures create onshore winds. This group, if that chaparral catches, we're used to getting fires from the north in the Santa Anas. This one's going to come in the back door, right across the Cable Creek flood control channel, up the bench. Now, those people, you can't fight that hill as it's coming up. I don't think the county can get there quick enough. But I'm urging you, the council, Mr. Scott, and the fire department, the police department, get out there and get this one cleaned up as soon as possible and stop it. The last group that we had in a quarter mile from there was actually parked down in Riverbed. We had a fire up in Devore. I'm one of those that kind of alerts our neighbors what's going on. We have a special alert system. I was headed up there to see if it was an evacuation thing for our Far West Myers people. Going up the riverbed, I have to pass through a homeless camp. A 5-acre fire in Devore. These guys had a 50-gallon drum like they used to in the 20s. They burned their trash, the top's off. They got their own bonfire going. Sparks, trash, all the embers are flying, and the wind's blowing. And that took a non-confrontational discussion with them to knock it off on my way up to the fire, which they did. But we can't afford having a homeless group come in here, trash the area, light it off with a simple campfire, and then leave with a mess. I offered to Mr. Scott in an email that after you get them out there, if you have trouble getting enough help, if you'll come out with a dumpster and some of your staff, I've got a little tractor that, man, I'll work with them. I'll help you load onto the dumpster to get it cleaned up. But this is a dangerous situation, this one is. It's worse than any of the Denny's. So thank you, Mr. Scott, thank you, Mr. Nickel, and all of your staff. I recognize some of the police department. I hope you'll get the county fire more proactive on this, because they're right down the road. They should have been on this yesterday.
Mr. Mitchell, your time's expired.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
But it's important. Thank you.
Sandra Ibarra.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I just want to say on the record that I did email to be a speaker on items 8 and 9 and for public speaking before 3 p.m., and I was not called up. When
I called you, you were not in the... I called and you were absent at the time.
For 8?
For both.
Well, I was told that I wasn't called. Okay, so just so you guys know, I went ahead and I contacted HUD. The way the Community Development Citizen Advisory Committee has been left in the dark for almost a year is unacceptable. I am part of the Neighborhood Watch in my block. I have present here some of my neighbors, and I would like for them to stand up. Imelda Carlos Perez. Carlos Perez is a homeowner on the corner of 5th and 21st. He had open heart surgery, back surgery a year ago, and has not been able to work. They're very low income. But like me and my other neighbor, we all got our notices from the community policing. Thank you, Chief Burgon, for being here, but if you can please be aware of what's going on in our neighborhood. We got cited for trash that we don't leave behind. It's loiters, people who don't live in our block. Those people come, dump their trash from their vehicles onto our streets and our alleys. The city's well aware of this. I clean up the trash before I leave home in the morning. I have to come home for more trash and clean it up again. Yet we're getting cited to clean up. So they need the help. We are considered CDBG area. As I mentioned, CDBG is for low income, moderate income areas in our city. And we are approving to pay extra money for a consultant who refuses to meet with the citizens. You guys had a hearing from March 30th to May 1st that it was announced on the Sun newspaper. How many people actually read and get the Sun newspaper? As a commissioner, I should have been informed, and I would have gotten the word out. I was not informed. I don't get the Sun newspaper, just so you guys know. Okay? So yes, I went ahead and contacted HUD to investigate the city once again on how they are managing the CDBG, ESG, and home funds without citizen participation, just so you guys know. And I will keep going at it. Mayor, you don't want to approve my appointments for Ward 2? As is, I'm volunteering my time. I may not agree with everything that you guys are doing, but I have a purpose here to be the voice between the residents of the city and the city, which I have been doing. But somehow you oppose me, you have a concern about me. I suggest you look closely at your appointees. There is one who openly said that she has a warrant for her arrest, not in this state, but in a different one. So if I were you, I would reconsider. Otherwise, I will keep spreading the word and get more people involved.
Maribel Navarro.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Maribel Navarro. Yo vengo porque Call Enforcement pasó por mi casa Yo llegué ayer de México, estuve 15 días ausente de la ciudad. College Fortman se fijó hasta que tengo enfrente de mi puerta una cadena. Esa cadena yo la tengo ahí porque mi hijo es deshabilitado y se me sale. A ella le molestó. La señora de College Fortman ha entrado varias veces a los apartamentos 530 y nunca se ha fijado cómo están los apartamentos, que tienen los árboles y están bloqueando el acceso de emergencia. Esos apartamentos no tienen un acceso de emergencia. Yo tengo que andar cortándole las ramas para que no me dañen el techo de mi casa. Pero los árboles siguen creciendo y esa persona no le da mantenimiento. Tienen una barda de 4 pies, menos de 4 pies esos apartamentos. Yo tuve que poner un fence para que no se pasen a mi lado. Pero yo creo que es justo que esa persona ponga una barda más alta o madera para que sus inquilinos de él tengan privacidad. Porque a mí me están dañando mi fence también.
Translation summary. She just came from Mexico. She got a huge code enforcement list of items to be fixed as well. She has a chain on one of her fences, and the reason why is because she has a son that has schizophrenia, paranoia, you name it, autism. And so that's why she puts a chain, and she got cited for having a chain. She's also getting cited for her flowers, yet the neighbors next door are apartments 530 West 21st, who we've complained several times about. They have trees overgrowing onto her property. She's trying to trim them on her end, but nobody's directing anything to that homeowner, the property owner. Also, she mentioned that the apartments also have their trees. Those same trees are blocking the emergency exit. So, we have community policing, giving us citations of people who are paying our taxes in this city. We have empty, vacant lots, and we're the ones who are being faced with citations. And they just dropped off a vehicle that just got towed away about a week ago in front of her property as well.
Thank you. Robert Porter?
City Manager, Council, Mayor. Oh, good people. Dwindling people. Wish there was more good people here today. Well, we had a great event on Saturday. Excellent opening for the park. Unfortunately, I didn't see any skateboard vendors there. Skateboard vendors should have been there. I heard skateboard vendors were willing to give away free products there to the hundreds of skateboarders, but they weren't allowed. So I don't know why that occurred, but next time we got to be more inclusive, because skaters ran that park on Saturday, and I was very proud. And they're going to run that park for a long time. We needed that 20 years ago in San Bernardino. We really did, Mr. Mayor. All right. Now, I hope it's not going to be an excuse to go after Wildwood Park or some craziness like that. You can put a skate park in there if you want, but you can't have the whole thing. You can't. You're not going to raise all the trees. Leave Wildwood Park alone, please. We can work with it. Now I got a new mayor pro tem. I saw an interesting vote today. One vote went a different way than it normally goes, Mr. Barrios. Interesting. I hope you two aren't having a falling out or something, and you take care of that, because you're a good team and we need our team together, all right? Not the other team, they make interesting decisions sometimes, not always the best. So I like you, Mr. Barrios. I hope you consider making the proper decisions. I also would like to know what's going on with the workshop. There was many red areas in your budget, Mr. City Manager, right? Lots of red areas. We can turn those red areas to green, Mr. Mayor. We can turn them to green. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any items to be submitted to committees? All right, we will. Councilmember Nickel?
Yeah, I would just, obviously it was mentioned this evening, and perhaps at some point A couple items have been brought to my attention. Obviously, the Verdemont Community Center, at some point, getting an update. We can do that offline. In addition, I've received questions. I think there's still a lot of confusion and ambiguity as pertains to the ongoing status of drought restrictions and to what degree medians and parks and public properties can or cannot be watered. In addition, I've had some residents come forward to me offering to pay out of their own pocket the costs of repairing the irrigation and the medians on Muscogee-Obient. Apparently, the sprinklers, the water comes on, the sprinklers are broken, and it doesn't appear that any repairs are taking place. So I've been approached to see if there might be some possibility. Like I say, the property owners there said they'll pay for it, but they really don't want to see the trees and those medians deteriorate to the point where it's going to adversely affect their property values. So I think we have people that are willing to step up. What we need to do is respond and be responsive to them. Also, I know we had some discussion some time ago about the convention center, the status of that. I know we've had a lot going on, so I get that, and I'm not trying to push anything, but certainly I think it would be helpful to understand. My understanding is that property is part and parcel to any movement that may take place in the future on the hotel property, so I think it would be helpful just as an FYI, so we have some sense of how that progress is occurring on those repairs.
Yeah, we've got a lot of capital projects to talk about.
Mm-hmm. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Valdivia.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also requesting, and I think Mark, you had agreed and consented to providing the council a full update on bankruptcy costs. I think it's important that we clearly understand what to this date have we expended in our city taxpayer funds, and it's important as the crisis of exiting bankruptcy, but certainly there's a cost to it, and I'd like to know those costs, please. The other item is some policy cleanup work that Legislative Review Committee has performed in on or about the month of February. The LRC committed to send forth 2 items for review and full recommendation, an up or down vote from the council. So I'd like to see those at the next council meeting, working with Jorge and my council staff to make sure that we get those on there. These items were the waiver of stolen vehicles, stolen properties. This is tow related. And the second item was the abandoned vehicle fee waivers. This was recommended to come before the council, and it's been almost 2.5 to 3 months, and I have not seen anything. So we need to ensure that we get it done. It was authorized and approved by the LRC to come back to the council, and it's just languished. So
yeah, I didn't realize it. I think I probably left before you took the vote, but I'll get it right on it.
So if we could please, I know that our community, it's almost a simple issue, but we appreciate your help. Thank you.
We also need to bring in, hopefully at the next meeting, discussion on fireworks. That was also an LRC.
Yeah, it was supposed to, I think there was a 90-day period on LRC that, and then it came before the full council. The council then wanted a recommendation on enforcement tools, and so it'd be good to get an update from that committee or our fire safety officials on what the plan is to roll out firework enforcement tools this year.
Councilman Barrios.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, I want to make sure that we don't forget about the cannabis committee that we're directed to, or we're going to have as far as the workshop, and that we get pulled to find out what dates we can have that workshop done. And so make sure we get that done by our next council meeting at the latest, as far as setting a date.
Yeah, we'll poll tomorrow.
Thank you. Also, second thing, I want to give an opportunity for the city to make a good move in cost recovery for our city, and through a company that can help us out with holding banks accountable with properties that are in foreclosure that have blighted our area. And I want them to go ahead and present at our next meeting to the council what their plan is to help us out. And they are NCRS. And so I know that you had some questions for them. We've sat down with them in the past, but I'll ensure that they contact you so that they can come and present on our next council.
Yeah. I mean, the issue here is that there's a private company that provides a service, which they believe could help the city from a financial standpoint. I probably get 5 or 10 emails a day from companies that suggest that they could save us money. I mean, it's constant. I don't know how to choose one and say that they should be on the agenda as a discussion item or to make their presentation. So I would look for some council direction on how do I go about dealing with every company that comes along that's got a proposal to make. Does that merit a placement on the city council agenda?
I think the city attorney has an idea, but let me know if I'm right on this. I'd like to see, first of all, if anyone's going to come speak, that precludes them from ever benefiting down the road, being a contractor.
I'd just like to remind council that the item on the agenda is items to be referred to city council committees. We should confine ourselves to that. It's not an open discussion of any issue you want to bring forth or have a discussion about. A lot of the items that I've heard tonight being raised should be raised offline with the city manager. But for the purposes of the agenda, it has to be an agendized item. It's not a free time to bring forth various issues that various council.
Would the proper step be to refer this issue to the LRC committee?
That's what's on the agenda. If you want to refer something to a committee, that's what you should be doing at this time.
Is that the proper step for them? Because I'm unsure of what guidance to give you.
Yeah, I think I don't know when I'm going to get cut off here. I would think that any company can make a written presentation to a city council at any time. And perhaps that's what they should be asked to do. They could send tapes, they could send, it's just that it's a service that a company provides. It's not a legislative review matter. It's not an ordinance. It's not a policy. It's a question of somebody who believes that they can do something to help us. Obviously, we're interested in every idea we can get, and we deal with a lot of them all the time. In this particular case, I'd be happy to make a, well, see, I'm going to go way off base here.
Councilman Barrios was attempting to refer this to a committee, and you're suggesting that rather than refer it to a committee, there's a good alternative as a way to discuss it and approach it. That's within the parameters of discussing what goes in it. And it's not. I'm trying to refrain from being highly technical here, but I don't want to go too far off the agendized item and begin to discuss whatever comes to mind.
Maybe what I could do is provide the council with a memo that says what the service is that this company provides.
Okay.
And if the city council is interested in pursuing that service as something that we want to contract for, then we could make it known publicly for companies that might want to compete to do that service. And that would be a more fair way of doing it. It's just there's a lot of companies that contact us every day, and I don't know how to just differentiate one from another.
Should there be a committee designed to do that? Has that happened in the past?
Usually, cities go way out of their way to avoid having city council members involved in procurement discussions. Usually, it's actually done the other way, that city council members wait until contracts come before them rather than getting involved in deciding what companies should provide what service. So I would say that would be kind of the opposite of what is typically done in in any form of government. But I would say that would be more common, not to have council committees to review proposals from companies to do business, but rather asking the city staff to make presentations to the council generically about the services that you're interested in. This is an interesting service. I will give them credit for that. It's an interesting service. And if we put it out to bid or proposal, it's possible there wouldn't be another company that would propose it. They were impressive when I met them. It hasn't risen to the level of where I thought that it was the next important thing for me to get on an agenda. But if the council wants, I could bring that memo in, and then you could decide where you want to go with it. And maybe that's the best way to do it.
Is that your guide? I'm looking for the best avenue to get this discussion on the table.
I'd feel better doing it that way.
Okay.
All right. Councilmember Marquez, you have announcements?
I do, Your Honor. On Wednesday, May 17th, the San Bernardino International Airport will host the 23rd Annual Inland Empire World Trade Week Conference. This event is in partnership with the U.S. Department of Commerce. Sponsors include California State University San Bernardino, San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, the Inland Empire District Export Council, California State Polytechnic, University Pomona, and many others. Northrop Grumman will be the keynote speaker, and a host of experts in international trade, transportation, cybersecurity, and aerospace will be on hand presenting during breakout sessions and answering questions. This event is scheduled for 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the San Bernardino International Airport Domestic Terminal, located at 105 North Leland Norton Way. For registration, you can go online to www.ieworldtrade.com, or you can call their office at 909-392-4100. On Thursday, May 18th, the Warm Springs Neighborhood Association would like to invite you to attend their quarterly meeting. Our guest speaker is Dr. June Chong regarding his independent home program. The meeting is scheduled for 4 to 5:30 p.m., and it will take place at the Bobby Vega Community Center, 402 Crestview Avenue. If you have any questions regarding this event, you can call me here, 384-5188. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Barrios?
Thank you, Mayor. I got a few more than the normal announcements here. The first, but I do want to recognize our council and the progress we've made in together as a team in all the issues that we've dealt with. I think we've come a long way in the years that we have been working together. And I just wanted to take a time out just to really say good job, guys, and just keep this train moving. I know there's a lot of hard things we deal with, but on a day-to-day basis. And I just personally want to recognize my team for the work that we've all put in, because I don't think we ever do that. First thing, Tuesday, May 16th, 2017, at 9 a.m., there's a small business training seminar. It's in Training Room 201, North East Street. There's no cost. You can pre-register at www.iesmallbusiness.com to learn about getting into business. On Wednesday, May 17th, San Bernardino Mexican Consulate has the first annual Port of Activities event, and that's going to be held at 5 p.m. at 293 North D Street. Contact, I'm going to mess up this name, Tedenok at 909-708-8093, or email at tcta28@gmail.com for more information. Thursday, May 18th, there's the Community Emergency Response Team, otherwise known as CERT. They're having a meeting at the National Orange Show at 6 p.m. The address is 930 South Arrowhead Avenue. Contact Sergeant Fivey for more information at 909-388-4867. And I know that there's a number of volunteers in the Muscogee area who come forward to become CERT certified, and those are amazing volunteers of our community that are a huge asset. And I encourage more people to get involved with this CERT team and get certified. And the first step is just to go into these meetings and see what that's all about, because in a dire emergency, those people will be key in our community. So thank you for all those who have become CERT certified thus far. Saturday, May 20th at 8 a.m., the San Bernardino High School Neighborhood Association they're going to have a cleanup in the area of San Bernardino High School on 20th Street between E and G. For more information on that cleanup, contact Sandra Ibarra at 714-417-6202. At 10 a.m. on Saturday, May 20th, San Bernardino High School Neighborhood Association meeting. There will be an association meeting at the Green Shack patio located at 163 West Highland Avenue. For more information, again, contact Sandra Ibarra at 714-417-6202. Tuesday, May 23rd, again, there's another small business training seminar for those that are interested in learning about small business. It's at 9 a.m. to 11:30, located at the San Bernardino Training Room, 201 North East Street. Again, no cost. Register at www.iesmallbusiness.com. Wednesday, May 24th at 9 a.m. is when the second ward will have its Southwest District Coffee with a Cop at Michael's Burgers, located at 940 West Highland Avenue. For more information, contact Aline Hards at 909-384-5694. Thursday, May 25th at 5:30 p.m., there's a community group for Peace Walk at Cathedral of Praise, located at 3030 Del Rosa Avenue here in San Bernardino. For more information, contact 909-253-9147. Saturday, May 27th at 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., there's a residential dump day at Paris Hill Park, located at 831 East Highland Avenue. It's going to be at the Jerry Lewis Swim parking lot. Use the Harrison entrance. And for more information, contact Burtech at 909-889-1969. Also on Saturday, May 27th at 10 a.m., there's a Disabled American Veterans Memorial Wall dedication ceremony and Veterans Garden and Resource Center grand opening at 2501 Pacific Street, Highland. Contact Richard Valdez for more information at 909-838-2634 or by email richarddav12@aol.com. Monday, May 29th, the American Legion Post 14 is going to have their annual Memorial Day ceremony at Mount View Mortuary and Cemetery, located at 570 East Highland Avenue. Contact Robert Gunny
Nowazielski
at 909. Thank you very much, Jim. 800-9973. I also wanted to highlight that the Mount View Mortuary had a public service lunch dedication for us last week, and that was for all the fire department, all the police officers, elected officials who are in public service. I just wanted to say thank you for remembering those that are in public service and in having sponsored a lunch for us. Saturday, June 3rd, at 8 a.m., there is going to be a Neighborhood Association President's Meeting at Emmanuel United Methodist Church, located at 33 North G Street. Contact Emelian Lopez at 909-266-6377 or Lynn Ware, who is the secretary, at 951-237-3016 for more information. And again, with the Neighborhood Association meetings, if you want to get involved with our community, learn how to help or volunteer time, that's a good resource or a good meeting to go to find out information on how to do that. And just to find out what is actually happening in our community as well. I also wanted to thank Mr. Scott and my colleague, Councilman Valdivia, for attending the Scoopy Neighborhood Association meeting on May 10th, which they provided a lot of value and information to the attendees there. So I want to say thank you to you guys for coming out to the meeting. Also, as it has been said repeatedly, that there was a grand opening of a park, and I just wanted to publicly thank everyone that was involved from the beginning. I know Mayor Pat Morris, and there was a lot of other people involved in making this happen, and some people want to give me credit, but I take no credit at all for doing this. I was just the face that was present, whose ward it happened in, and it's not just necessarily for the ward; it's actually for the entire city. And thank you for all those that attended that event as well. It was a wonderful event. And for those that don't know about the one thing about the park, there is free Wi-Fi there, which I was very impressed with. So yes, you can go there and get online and do your homework for all the students out there that want a spot to do homework right after school. So I found that pretty amazing. Last thing I have here is there is a nonprofit who's called Volunteers for Veterans Foundation that are looking for a vehicle to move furniture. They have furniture readily available to donate to veterans, but they do not have a vehicle to move that in. If you have any information or anyone that can sponsor a vehicle, please contact staff here at 909-384-5188. I hope those numbers are still the same after we make them move. Are they still going to be the same, Scott? Okay. They're still going to be the same. So if you have any recommendations, please contact staff and to let me know. Thank you very much, Mayor. Oh, one more item. I almost forgot. and this is, I probably should have started out, but I wanted to recognize a gentleman who dedicated a lot of his time to the city of San Bernardino. Longtime resident of the Second Ward, Oscar Gonzalez, he passed away on March 29th this year. And he loved and volunteered hundreds of hours to time in community service. And he was a commissioner for several different commissions. First, Civil Service Commission from July 6, 1993 to October 26, 1999. He was on the Police Commission from March 20th, 2006 to March 1st, 2010. And the Board of Building Commissioners from August 15, 2011 to May 4th, 2015. And he also served on the Board of Directors for the Sinfonía Mexicana Youth Mariachi. And he's survived by his wife of 55 years, Shirley Gonzalez, daughters Virginia Snyder and Susan Rivera Sanchez, Rachel Young, Deborah Salveson, Naomi Bulgarin, 4 grandsons, 1 great-grandson, and 2 more on the way. And I wanted to recognize Mr. Gonzalez for all his dedication that he did to the community, and I hope we can dedicate this council meeting in his memory, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Valdivia.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to reassure the residents along the Bunker Hill corridor that our public right-of-way crew has been out in the public alleyways, and we're really excited to get those alleyways cleaned up. We're very appreciative of the hard work our Public Works team has provided our community. Also, it might be important for us someday to get an update on the Public Works Director and where we're going and where we're headed. I think that's of interest to me. I also wanted to send my deepest appreciation to all of the patients in the southeasterly portion of the area, my district, and residents concerning several items that you brought to my attention. We're working on them, and I've routed those inquiries and requests to various individuals through the city manager's office, so we appreciate it. Regarding some of the housekeeping items, certainly streetlights are of main concern to me. I have asked my staff to almost copy me on results. I'm a big results. I'm a pragmatist at heart. So, Mr. Scott, Ms. Miller, your assistant city manager, it's important that we get out into our city streets and get these streetlights fixed. Of concern to me has been expressed almost 45 days now on the Inland Center corridor, as well as Southeast Street from Mill to Orange Show Way. I am going to be out in the field beginning June 1 in earnest, and I'll be requesting city staff, if possible, at night to survey alongside me. If not, then I'll provide my own volunteers. But we need to get out in my district and throughout our city and find out where those city streetlights are, and they're burnt out, and I want to get to the bottom of it, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it. And so we're going to come back with an action plan to repair streetlights in our city and restore those streetlights to what they should be well lit. And I know we have a problem. We've been working on it, but I want to get on a city truck. I want to find out. I want to start writing some of our departments through your office, Mark, and maybe you can help me coordinate that. But I'd love to find out exactly what's going on in our city yards and find out a little bit more the day-to-day operations of our public works. Regarding, we've had, I think, some big decisions here at the council. Certainly want to encourage our city residents and taxpayers to make sure you're aware of the move from City Hall to our various locations throughout the city. I don't think we've made a lot of mention that or to do about it here, but this is technically our last meeting, right, Mark, in this council chambers, and so it'll be kind of sentimental to leave here, our home, that I've been here for 5 years almost, and we really appreciate our city crews. It's a big move, and we're certainly looking forward to moving the city in the right direction. But EDA boardroom will be our boardroom essentially for council activities and Mayor and Common Council, or City Council workshops, and so just be aware of that. Also, what's most important is the Water Department will be receiving payments beginning after the Memorial Day weekend on the 30th, I believe, and it's that first Tuesday, so just mark your calendars for those individuals who have water customer service issues. It'll be in the 1300 block of South E Street, just south of Orange Show. Also, certainly, we house it in our district, in my district, so the water customer service is now moved out of City Hall onto the South E Street corridor. And finally, to the greatest mom in the whole wide world, my wife, Beth Valdivia, we certainly appreciate you. We celebrated Mother's Day yesterday, and a belated happy Mother's Day to all of our moms in the city of San Bernardino. We appreciate your hard efforts, your work, and really providing that sense of security to your family, so we appreciate all our mothers in the city of San Bernardino. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Surratt.
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a couple. The Dr. Nag meeting will be held Thursday, May 18th at 7 p.m. That's Dr. Nag stands for the Del Rosa Neighborhood Action Group. They meet at the Native Sons of the Golden West building. That's at 2701 Del Rosa. That's the corner of Date and Del Rosa. And for further information, I have not been informed as to what the program will be this time, but Claudia Oakes will be the person to contact if you have any questions about that. We invite you out. Phone number for Claudia is 909-882-3033. Again, that's Thursday, May 18th. That's this week, Thursday night at 7 p.m. And then Saturday, June 3rd will be the Wildwood Park Neighborhood Association Annual Picnic Breakfast at the Lutheran Church of Our Savior, 5050 North Sierra Way, 49th and Leroy. Contact Tony Marzullo at 909-883-1315. That's Saturday morning, June 3rd, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. And they serve a great breakfast up there, and they've been growing that event over the last 2 or 3 years exponentially. So I think they're expecting maybe 300 or 400 people there over that period of time. So it's a very active group, and it's a good breakfast, and it serves a worthy cause. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Nichol.
Yeah, a few announcements. The Inland Empire's 2017 World Trade Conference will take place this Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at our San Bernardino Airport Domestic Terminal. You can register for this event. My understanding is this is an inaugural event, more or less. I think we've had some discussions in the past with the trade service, and
it's the 23rd. It's first time here.
Yeah. So this is an opportunity to really put San Bernardino on the map in terms of we certainly do have a good fair share of companies that have located in our city, but this is a good way for us to connect to the international trade industry and all the opportunities. So more information at ieworldtrade.com. Also, the San Bernardino Police Department Northwest District Coffee with the Cop will take place at the Farmer Boys Restaurant, 1766 West Kendall Drive, also on Wednesday, May 17 at 9 a.m. And finally, beginning Friday, May 19 through Sunday, May 21st. The 10th Annual Southern California Little League Challenger Fun Days will take place at our Little League Western Regional Facility at 6707 Little League Drive. Contact Barbara Sky for more information at 951-202-6149. Again, that will be Friday, May 19 through Sunday, May 21st. That concludes my announcements. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Richard.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of announcements. On Thursday, May the 18th, Mount Vernon Neighborhood Association will be having their meeting at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Ballard Rehabilitation Center. It's at the corner of 16th and 16th and Medical Center Drive. Contact Carlos Teran at 909-383-9017 or 909-838-7338. And then on Thursday, May the 25th, the Council of Chambers Salute to Outstanding Public Officials will be hosting an awards banquet at the Hilton at the Los Angeles Airport, 5711 West Century Boulevard, Los Angeles, California. Contact Cheryl Brownlee at 916-463-0177. And the reason why I announced that is because the Mayor Fontana Aquanetta Warren will be receiving an award that day. I also want to thank or say happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers. You know, with me being a mother of 4, of course, John, I'm sorry. I'm the best mother around. Sorry. Just had to say that one. But, I enjoyed my week. I had 2 dinner dates with 2 Saturday and Sunday. Woo! Guess on Sunday wasn't a dinner date I ended up paying, but okay. But, it's always
You're still their mother, then.
Yes, it's always wonderful being with your children. And, especially when they get older, they, kind of like, going their own way. So to all the mothers, around, happy belated Mother's Day. Thank you.
Councilmember Mulvihill.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a few announcements to make. First, this Thursday, May 18th, the Inland Empire section, the regional section of the American Planning Association, is going to award its annual planning distinction to National Community Renaissance for its baseline Waterman specific plan. I was at the Southern California Association of Governments meeting last week in Palm Desert, who also awarded the National Corps the award for this specific plan. And so another level of awards going to the baseline Waterman specific plan. Not just baseline Waterman, but the surrounding neighborhood, which is a very challenging area. So from 5 p.m. until 8 p.m. in the Riverside Convention Center, 3637 5th Street in Riverside. Also, too.
What day?
Thursday the 18th? Thursday the 18th at 5 p.m. And I was also, I know Councilman Barrios mentioned about the Memorial Day ceremony, American Legion at the Mountain View Mortuary Cemetery. Also, what they have is a flyover, which is very impressive, inspirational, of a World War II era prop fighters and fighter bombers. And so just to indicate that that's also going to take place at the Mountain View location. And also I want to, along with the honoring of recognizing Oscar Gonzalez, I can't fail to mention as a 31-year faculty member at Cal State San Bernardino, the sudden and unexpected passing of our third president, Albert Carnegie. He was a friend, often said about his administrative skills, and he had that in pluses. He was immediately in charge. I met him virtually his first day on campus, and it wasn't just on our campus, but he was able to put together the Palm Desert campus completely through private donations. And this was his only, about the only person who was out finding supporters for the Palm Desert campus. It's been built completely without public dollars, and really is it's difficult to say it's a model because I don't think it's ever going to be repeated, but that's the accomplishments that he had. And it goes without saying that his beginnings were extremely humble. His parents were refugees from the Armenian Holocaust during the First World War. He should have had 4 uncles. All of them died during the Holocaust. And so, fortunately, his parents survived that. Coming to New York, also I can relate to him. In high school, he didn't do very well. He never expected to go to college. After high school, he was a taxi driver before discovering that really there is a reason to become educated, and I can very much relate to that. So I just want to recognize the fact that Al Carnegie died suddenly, and he'll be missed greatly. Passed away far too soon and unexpectedly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'd like to announce the Feeding America Second Annual Hunger Walk, which will be held on June the 24th. It will start at San Manuel Stadium in San Bernardino, and the walk will be from 8 to 10:30 a.m. with the pre-event check-in at 7 a.m. Each paid registrant will receive an event T-shirt and a free ticket to the 66ers game on June 24th. Also, I had the opportunity last week to attend Career Day at one of our elementary schools and engaged in some conversation with 4th graders and 5th graders. Certainly one of the highlights of my week. And one of the students asked, well, how old do you have to be mayor? So there's nothing in our charter that indicates what the age requirement is to be our mayor.
They have to be a registered voter in the city of San Bernardino.
What's that? 18.
I believe they have to be a registered voter in the city of San Bernardino, so they'd have to be at least 18.
Thank you. So I turned the question back to the students and asked them, how old do you think that the mayor should be? And they came up with different answers, and one of them said, well, they should be at least 30. And so I asked why, and she said they should have some experience. So that coming from our 4th graders. They're very thoughtful, so I was very, very much appreciative of that. Also, Councilmember Barrios, I don't know if you want to mention the event that we attended at the Inland Center Mall, wherein we had the teens that were recognized for the number of hours of service, and the student from San Bernardino High School won the award. It's called the Top Dog Award, I believe, and she provided over 800 hours of service. And so that was coming out of your high school. So.
We turn out some good ones.
And that's an event that is hosted and sponsored by the Inland Center Mall together with the United Way. Anything from the city managers? City attorney?
No.
City clerk? It is with sad note that we conclude our meeting this evening. This will be the last meeting in our beloved council chambers. And it's with a sad heart that we will not be meeting here again in the foreseeable future, but the next meeting will be held at the 201 building in the modified conference room there. So this meeting is adjourned.
On Wednesday.